The stunning master has pregnant with my child. Chapter 1, The Master of Beauty, the disciple who rebelled against the master. Only Yun Qingwan and her own disciple Ye Feng were in the main hall of Yunxia Peak, the holy land of Tianxuan Sect. On the lotus platform, the peak master Yun Qingwan was lying obediently on the broad chest of her traitor Ye Feng, listening to his strong heartbeat. Her jade hands were gently stroking the firm muscles on his chest, and her beautiful face that could turn everyone upside down was full of satisfaction. While tidying up her messy red robe, her seductive red lips also emitted a series of fascinating whispers. The chaos body is indeed worthy of its reputation. It only took 2 short hours to make me advance greatly. If another 3 to 5 years pass, maybe I can break through to the late stage of Emperor Yu. In the future, I must love this cute little rebel more. When Yun Qingwan thought that her cultivation, which had stagnated for thousands of years, was about to break through in 3 to 5 years, the smile on her mature and beautiful face became more and more intense. Yun Qingwan suddenly stretched out her slender jade hand and gently stroked her cheek. Finally, she placed the white and clear jade finger on her rosy and attractive lips. While speaking, Yun Qingwan gently rewarded her soul-stirring red lips with her pink tongue. The domineering and round slender jade legs were lazily placed there, and the 10 pink-colored lips on her feet were crystal clear and bright like rubies. The red dress perfectly sets off her perfect figure, and her pair of crystal clear peach blossom eyes are even more charming. The beauty of the person in front of him would be dim even when the sun comes. Looking at his master's charming look, Ye Feng was obsessed. He had become unclean a long time ago, all thanks to the beautiful person in front of him. Since he was 18 years old, he has been forced by the beautiful master in front of him countless times. However, all this did not make him feel uncomfortable at all, but he liked it very much. "Master, you have been bullying me like this for so many years. How can I face people in the future?" While speaking, Ye Feng's big hand did not hesitate to hold the soft waist that had just been wrapped in the red dress. Yun Qingwan heard the words and let her jade hand leave her red lips. The white jade finger gently touched the traitor's eyebrows. The little head leaning against his chest also moved gently, almost sticking to the traitor's face. Looking at her beloved disciple who looked like she had lost all hope in life, she also felt a little resentful. "Little traitor, you are still acting cute after getting the upper hand. I am the leader of Yunxia Peak of Tianxuan Sect. In the past 30,000 years, I have been called the most beautiful woman in this world by countless people. I am sincere to you. It's fine if you don't appreciate it. But you still have this expression every time after we are done. You really don't understand romance. If you keep making trouble like this, I will punish you to drink master's bath water." Ye Feng sneered at her and secretly complained in his heart. "It sounds good. You just fancy my chaotic body and want to improve your cultivation. Besides, my goal is to let myself focus on the peak and seek the way to immortality. You have broken my state of mind. How can I pursue immortality wholeheartedly?" But having said that, Master's beautiful face and perfect figure are really cool. There is also the contrast between the noble and dignified appearance of the Empress of Yunxia Peak and the obedient curling up in his arms on weekdays, which is really enjoyable. Although Ye Feng thought so in his heart at this time, he has always respected his master very much. He has been an orphan who lost his parents since he was a child and has never been cared for by others. Seeing that others have parents, he couldn't help but sigh why fate is so unfair. Until he joined Tianxuan Sect, he met his master Yun Qingwan. The master gave him everything she had, and took care of him meticulously for so many years. She is really a good master. For so many years, the relationship between him and the master has always been developing subtly in the direction of getting closer and closer. Ye Feng himself is no longer used to this kind of change. The relationship between the two is already very close. Ye Feng knows that the master has become the most important person in his life. They both know very well what this kind of feeling represents. This special master-disciple relationship makes both of them feel very wonderful. Now Yun Qingwan is Ye Feng's most respected master and elder, and also Ye Feng's most important master baby. Looking at her disciple's extremely aggrieved expression, Yun Qingwan also looked helpless. She gently stroked the face of her rebellious disciple with her jade hand, and whispered coquettishly, okay, master will give you a powerful imperial weapon and some imperial skills as compensation. That's okay, right?" Hearing this, Ye Feng smiled and kissed Yun Qingwan fiercely. "Thank you, master. I know that my master is not only good-looking, but also very kind-hearted. She is worthy of being the most beautiful woman in this world." While speaking, Ye Feng also smiled and gave Yun Qingwan a thumbs up, indicating that he recognized her. When Yun Qingwan saw this, a hint of anger appeared on her pretty face. You little slickhead, you really tried your best to get benefits from Master. Over the years, Master, I don't know how many of the various treasures and advanced techniques here have been deceived by you. Master's family fortune is about to be drained by you. Master has been wiped out by you and you still bully me like this. When she thought that the imperial weapons and imperial skills she had accumulated over the past 30,000 years were being deceived bit by bit by this little traitor, she wanted to give him a good beating. But she felt a little reluctant to let go. After so many years of relationship, this little traitor had already been integrated into her life. Yun Qingwan has been single for 30,000 years. Ever since she took in Ye Feng, her only precious disciple, she has been experiencing different happiness every day. This precious little rebel can make her so happy at any time. She, Yun Qingwan, really loves her precious apprentice to death. Besides, he was her only beloved disciple. How could Yun Qingwan not know how much this disciple cared for her and relied on her over the years? Both her body and soul were completely engraved with the mark of this beloved disciple. Thinking of this, Yun Qingwan couldn't help but feel a strong sense of shyness in her heart, and a happy smile appeared on her face. Just then, Ye Feng let his master lie on him and laughed. Master, you are already a big boss in the Emperor's nether realm. Those low-end Emperor weapons and skills are of no use to you. Why not let me use them for self-defense? In this way, I can protect myself and help you improve your cultivation in the future. Besides, only if I protect myself can I better honor you, Master, in the future, right? Master, you must be very tired. Let me give you a massage to relax you. While speaking, Ye Feng had already placed his claws on Yun Qingwan's fragrant shoulders that were enough to drive countless people crazy. Seeing that her little traitor still cared about her, Yun Qingwan was in a good mood and no longer worried about the imperial weapons and skills. She whispered, "It's good that you, a little traitor who only knows how to cheat treasures from Master, have a conscience." Hearing this, Ye Feng stopped what he was doing. He looked at Yun Qingwan's beautiful face and couldn't help but retorted, "Master, what you said is wrong. How can you say it's cheating? This is Master's love for his disciple. And I'm not a traitor. All along, I have only longed for becoming an immortal and living forever. I have never done anything to let you down." After saying that, Ye Feng continued to massage Yun Qingwan's shoulders. Yun Qingwan opened her red lips slightly and said, "Oh, really? Then tell me, why do you want to worship at Yunxia Peak?" Ye Feng replied, "Of course it's to become an immortal and live forever." After hearing what Ye Feng said, Yun Qingwan slightly raised her red lips and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Do you think anyone will believe such a high-sounding reason? What do you mean you only yearn for immortality? You are not attracted to me. If I show the place where the cinnabar on my arm disappeared to my master brother and tell him that it was you who did it, how do you think your master uncle will deal with you, a traitor?" Ye Feng was shocked when he heard this, and the massage on his hand paused for a moment. "Good, you are really a good master. You are a traitor to the master, but you still want to frame me as a traitor to the master. Your conscience is very bad." Although Ye Feng felt that this master was very bad, he still tried to force a smile. "Master, you must be reluctant to do this, right?" Seeing Ye Feng's expression of flattering her, Yun Qingwan felt a sense of satisfaction in her heart. She slowly stretched out her jade hand again, gently stroked Ye Feng's jade-like cheek, felt the touch and temperature of his skin, and couldn't help but feel a strange feeling in her heart. She smiled and said softly, "My dear disciple, as long as you listen and help Master improve his cultivation, Master will not say anything nonsense tilde." After saying that, a cunning look flashed in her eyes, but it was quickly concealed. "After all, you are so beautiful, have such a good aptitude for cultivation, and have the origin of chaos. The most important thing is that Master likes you very much. Besides, you are the person Master will rely on for the rest of his life. Okay, give Master a massage. Today's cultivation has been too long, and Master is really a little tired." Yun Qingwan's voice was soft and gentle, as if it had an irresistible magic. After hearing this, Ye Feng had to follow Yun Qingwan's words and massage her shoulders obediently. He began to gently massage Yun Qingwan's shoulders. His movements were gentle and skillful, and he did not dare to slack off in the slightest. Master loved him so much, and he should serve her. Besides, since she was his lovely master's baby, Ye Feng could only be so humble and let his beautiful master Yun Qingwan do whatever she wanted. Yun Qingwan closed her eyes slightly, enjoying Ye Feng's massage with a satisfied smile on her face. Well, disciple, your massage skills have improved in recent days. Yun Qingwan whispered softly, lying on the chest of the rebellious disciple and gradually relaxed. However, it is not enough to just improve the massage skills. You have to work harder, the master still wants a baby. Master, I will definitely respect you well. Hearing the words of the beautiful master, Ye Feng was also full of longing for the future. Ye Feng secretly swore that sooner or later, he would become an immortal and reach the peak. Use your own hands to support the sky for the master's baby. Where to plant a picture, plant a master and harvest thousands of masters. Chapter 2 Master's Pursuer, Master's Baby Who Got a Bargain with the Traitor. After Ye Feng's massage, Yun Qingwan felt that her fatigue had completely dissipated. She gently closed her eyes and enjoyed this moment of peace and comfort. At this time, Yun Qingwan's body trembled slightly. This little bad guy actually let her lie in his arms to massage herself. It was so bad. She opened her eyes and looked at the hand that was massaging her, and a trace of shyness flashed in her eyes. Then, Yun Qingwan stretched out her fair jade hand, gently pressed the big hand on her shoulder, and said softly, Ye Feng, Master is not so tired anymore. Tomorrow is the Saint's Sun selection ceremony. You should go back and have a good rest. Tianxuan Sect, the largest and most powerful force standing in the righteous way of the human world, has 7 other peaks surrounding it in addition to Tianxuan Peak where the 3 giants including the headmaster are located. These peaks are managed by the peak masters of each peak, forming a complex and orderly sect system. The Saint's Sun selection ceremony held every 10,000 years is a grand event for the entire Tianxuan Sect. At this ceremony, 3 of the most outstanding disciples of the younger generation will be selected from the 7 peaks and awarded the title of Saint Sun. Although the 3 are all Saint Suns, there is a distinction between the first and the last. The first is called the first Saint Sun and has the highest status. However, to participate in the Saint Sun selection, certain conditions must be met. First, only the chief disciple of each Dao peak is eligible to participate in the Saint Sun selection. Second, the age must not exceed 3,000 years old, and the cultivation must reach the quasi-emperor realm. Some disciples were born at the wrong time because of their age and have never participated in the Saint Sun selection. They can only consider themselves unlucky. For Ye Feng, although he is only in his 50s, his strength and cultivation have long surpassed his peers. In the chief selection of Yunxia Peak, Ye Feng, who is at the first level of quasi-emperor, defeated his senior brother Pang Hao, who is at the third level of quasi-emperor, with only 3 moves, showing his strong strength and talent. Even Pang Hao admired Ye Feng. The Dao Peak where the 3 people selected as the Holy Sons are located will also be allocated more cultivation resources. Therefore, Yun Qingwan also attaches great importance to this matter. When Ye Feng heard this, his hand movements paused slightly, and he nodded solemnly, My disciple heard that there is a disciple named Xiao Yihan in Mohai Peak who is about the same age as me. He also defeated the opponent of the Quasi-Emperor in the 3rd level of the world with the strength of the Quasi-Emperor in the 1st level of the world and ascended to the position of the chief. Senior sister Mu Shuali of Shuilian Peak seems to have reached the 3rd level of the Quasi-Emperor. Feeling the solemnity in her disciple's tone, Yun Qingwan chuckled and joked. Why, my fearless disciple is afraid that he can't win. Do you want me to use a secret method to help you improve your cultivation? Although Yun Qingwan often relies on Ye Feng's chaos essence blood to cultivate, today is even more direct. But she herself also has the excellent cultivation cauldron physique of Qinxiang Daotai Saint body. This kind of physique is recognized as the best cauldron in this world. When the 2 of them practice together, she can not only benefit from Ye Feng, but also use her excellent physique to give Ye Feng unimaginable benefits. Hearing the words of Master Baby, Ye Feng shook his head indifferently. Too much is as bad as too little. Relying too much on this method will cause problems in my foundation. Also, although this method is good for me, it consumes too much for Master. I am reluctant to give it up. While speaking, Ye Feng tightened his arms around Master Baby. Yun Qingwan's delicate body trembled slightly, and a little sweetness emerged in her heart. She let her precious disciple do whatever she wanted to her. Ye Feng's words made Yun Qingwan's heart surge with warmth, but she was unforgiving. She stretched out her jade hands to wrap around the neck of the rebellious disciple, and whispered softly, Master, I don't want the disciples I taught to be suppressed by others. Ye Feng kissed Yun Qingwan on the face. Master, don't worry. The chiefs of the other peaks are indeed excellent, but your precious disciple is not a pushover either. Yun Qingwan's face was a little ruddy at this time, but her mind was more focused on tomorrow's Saint Sun selection ceremony. Anyway, just be careful. No matter what the final outcome is, you must pay attention to safety. Safety is important, but you must also do your best. If you dare to be lazy, Master will definitely punish you when you come back. Just as Ye Feng hugged Yun Qingwan to discuss the Saint Sun ceremony, a man's voice sounded outside the hall. Junior Sister Yun, Luo Yang, the master of the fire hall of Tianxuan Valley, is here to visit. Please be kind enough to stay with me for a while. Hearing this voice, a helpless look flashed across Yun Qingwan's beautiful face. Tianxuan Valley is a top force that has existed in this world for tens of thousands of years, just like Tianxuan Sect. More than 30,000 years ago, before the great catastrophe of heaven and earth came to the world, Luo Yang had come to Tianxuan Sect with the previous master of Tianxuan Valley. At that time, Luo Yang fell in love with Yun Qingwan, who was beautiful, noble and elegant, at first sight. For 30,000 years, no matter how Yun Qingwan refused, Luo Yang still pursued her relentlessly. Yun Qingwan was also quite troubled by this. Although he was not from the Tianxuan Sect, Tianxuan Valley was also a righteous force, and had been on good terms with the Tianxuan Sect for tens of thousands of years, so Yun Qingwan could not go too far. At that moment, she could only refuse tactfully. Brother Luo, Qingwan is too tired today and feels a little uncomfortable. I hope Brother Luo can forgive me. When Luo Yang heard this, a trace of disappointment flashed through his heart, but he quickly dispelled this disappointment. Since Junior Sister Yun is not feeling well, I will not bother you anymore. I will come to Tianxuan Sect to visit Junior Sister Yun another day. For 30,000 years, I have been sincere to Junior Sister Yun. I hope Junior Sister Yun can think about our relationship carefully. Although Yun Qingwan has been rejecting him for 30,000 years, he believes that one day Yun Qingwan will be moved by his sincerity. Hearing Luo Yang's words, Ye Feng couldn't help but sigh. Master, I didn't expect that Senior Luo from Tianxuan Valley is so infatuated with you. He has not given up after pursuing you for 30,000 years. He is really a real man. Ye Feng couldn't help but give Senior Luo a thumbs up in his heart. But, having said that, Master, your charm is really admirable. What an amazing charm it is to be so obsessed with a person of the opposite sex and pursued him consistently for 30,000 years without changing his original intention. Thinking of this, Ye Feng hugged the beauty in his arms even tighter. Little rascal, you are still acting cute after getting the advantage. Yun Qingwan rolled her eyes at him coquettishly. I am so angry that he bullies me like this, but I can't bear to punish him, it's really hateful. Anyway, I can't do anything about this disciple, so I'd better deal with the one outside first. Brother Luo, Qingwan already has someone in her heart. I hope Brother Luo won't come to Tianxuan Sect to find me in the future, so as not to let him misunderstand. After hearing Yun Qingwan's answer, Ye Feng was very satisfied. Luo Yang was a little stunned, and there was a trace of anger rising in his heart, as if the flowers he had carefully cared for 30,000 years were suddenly picked by others. But he thought about it carefully and smiled. Sister Yun, even if you reject my kindness, you should find a convincing reason. According to his understanding, Yun Qingwan has stayed in Yunxia Peak for many years and never goes out unless necessary. Her brothers are all crazy about cultivation, as if they have no feelings for men and women. Luo Yang couldn't help but frown, thinking to himself, could it be that Junior Sister Yun has become uninterested in other things because of the influence of the cultivation atmosphere of Tianxuan Sect? Maybe it is because of this that she has repeatedly declined my invitation. Thinking of this, Luo Yang decided to come to Tianxuan Sect more often in the future to see if he could change Yun Qingwan's mind. He murmured to himself, it seems that I have to visit Junior Sister Yun more often in the future, and I can't let her be led astray by these cultivation maniacs in Tianxuan Sect. At this time, Luo Yang suddenly realized, as if he had found the key to the problem. So, he shouted loudly, I know that Junior Sister Yun must want to practice wholeheartedly and pursue the way of immortality, so you use this reason to shirk me. But I will never give up easily. I will go back today, but I will definitely come to Tianxuan Sect to visit Junior Sister Yun again another day. After speaking, Luo Yang stretched out his finger and flicked it lightly, tearing the void and leaving. After seeing Luo Yang finally leave, Ye Feng showed a satisfied smile on his face. He looked down at Yun Qingwan lying in his arms and asked gently, Master, you are really worthy of being the world-famous fairy Yun. You can make Senior Luo from Tianxuan Valley pursue you for 30,000 years without giving up. Yun Qingwan blushed and said coquettishly, I naturally have to decisively refuse what I don't like, but I didn't expect that you, a traitor, would get the chance in the end. As she said that, she stretched out her pink fist and gently hit Ye Feng's chest. Ye Feng smiled evilly and hugged Yun Qingwan into his arms, saying softly, Master baby, kiss. You little traitor. Hearing the traitor calling her master baby, Yun Qingwan's beautiful eyes were filled with infinite shyness. Then she raised her elegant jade neck like a white swan and took the initiative to offer her soft and tempting lips. But this bad little traitor actually bit her. Yun Qingwan was immediately angry and said, You little traitor, I will not forgive you. Ye Feng deliberately said viciously, Call me brother. Yun Qingwan, no, I won't call you even if you kill me. After a while, Yun Qingwan whispered charmingly and shyly, Good brother. After a long time, Yun Qingwan blushed and lay in the arms of the traitor, drawing cute circles on his chest. Chapter 3, Holy Sun Ceremony, 3 Headmasters. The next morning, the central square of Tianxuan Peak of Tianxuan Sect was crowded with people, and many elders and disciples from the other 7 peaks gathered here. Because the Tianxuan Sect's Holy Sun Selection Ceremony, which is held once every 10,000 years, will be held here. Although Tianxuan Peak is usually populated by elders and deacons of some sects and no ordinary disciples, the area of Tianxuan Peak is more than twice that of the other 7 peaks. The Tianxuan Holy Land, which occupies 1/5 of the area of Tianxuan Peak, can accommodate more than hundreds of thousands of people. At this time, there were 3 figures sitting cross-legged on the golden and magnificent high platform full of the laws of the Great Tao. On the right was a middle-aged palace-robed beauty with a graceful face and elegant temperament. The person on the left was a tall old man with a serious face and black and white hair color that made him look majestic without anger. The old man in the middle has gray hair and beard, and his figure is a little hunched, but his central position and eyes as deep as the endless sky undoubtedly show everyone that this old man is the one with the highest status among the 3. These 3 people are the 3 giants of Tianxuan Sect, Tianxuan Sect Master He Zhenqian, left Deputy Master Zhuoxian, and right Deputy Master Gong Huangwan. Gong Huangwan sat quietly on the high platform in a brown patent palace robe, with a graceful and elegant look. Although she has experienced more than 40,000 years of vicissitudes, time seems to be particularly tolerant of her, and has not left any traces of time on her mature and beautiful face. Coupled with her lofty status and temperament, it adds a different kind of charm. What moved people the most was her unfathomable cultivation. Ye Feng felt that her cultivation was as unpredictable as the sea, and there was no end in sight. His master Yun Qingwan once told him that her deputy master's sister had reached the middle stage of the Emperor Xian realm. Deputy headmaster Zhuoxian is in the late stage of Emperor Xian realm, and has even touched the threshold of Emperor Ji realm. He Zhenqian, their headmaster, is a real leader in Emperor Ji realm. 10,000 years ago, He Zhenqian realized the great way under the joint attack of the 2 heads of Emperor Ji realm in the supreme heaven and the netherworld, and faintly touched the legendary immortal position. Then, after the end of the ancient calamity of heaven and earth 30,000 years ago, the first emperor of this world was born. He Zhenqian is the first disciple of the previous headmaster of Tianxuan Sect, and Ye Feng's master Yun Qingwan is the last one. As far as Ye Feng knows, Zhuoxian is more than 5,000 years older than Gong Huangwan. And this headmaster even his master Yun Qingwan doesn't know how many years he has lived. Master, I heard that in recent years, junior brother Mo Li's Mo High Peak has produced a young quasi-emperor who is less than 100 years old. Zhuoxian looked at the turbulent square below and turned his gaze to He Zhenqian with a smile. That little guy is really good, but I heard that junior sister Yu Shuang's Shui Lian Peak has also produced a little girl who has just turned 100 and is at the 3rd level of the quasi-emperor realm. And junior sister Yu Shuang's Yunxia Peak has also produced a young quasi-emperor who is less than 100 years old, and her physique is a rare chaos body. Although the first disciples of the other 4 peaks are over 1,000 years old, they have all reached the 3rd level of the quasi-emperor realm. Oh, so this Saint Sun ceremony is quite interesting. Zhuoxian heard this and found it a little more interesting. As the 2 talked, He Zhenqian hunched his back, and a trace of sorrow flashed across his old and majestic face. I have a hunch that within 10,000 years, the strange master that master sealed at the cost of his life 30,000 years ago will break the seal. Although they cannot grow up completely in 10,000 years, they will eventually rely on us old guys, but the more they grow, the more they can contribute. There is not much time left for these talented young people. The 2 were slightly shocked when they heard this. Yes, these little guys are indeed rare geniuses in 10,000 years, but there is too little time for them to grow. He Zhenqian also nodded slowly. This time, the three people who ascended to their holy sun will make an exception. You two will work harder to teach them in person. The two were also a little surprised when they heard this. They did not expect their headmaster to make such a decision. Before the catastrophe comes, we still need to properly promote growth. I'll leave this to you two. Gong Huangwan immediately responded after hearing this, "Don't worry, master." He Zhenqian nodded slowly, stood up and walked towards their hall behind. 10,000 years was the latest time he estimated. 30,000 years ago, even their master, who was infinitely close to the immortal position, had to sacrifice his own life to barely seal the strange lord from outside the plane in the dark abyss of the dark world. I have just touched the immortal position now. If I want to prevent the catastrophe in the future, I still need to be self-disciplined and diligent. The master's aura is indeed extraordinary. In the future, I will become someone like the master, or even surpass him. Looking at He Zhenqian's hunchback that makes people feel awe, Ye Feng set a small goal for himself, to become a heavenly emperor for fun before becoming an immortal. Hearing Ye Feng's words, Yun Qingwan just raised her flawless pretty face and smiled lightly. She reached out and touched her disciple's head, and used her spiritual power to wrap the sound into Ye Feng's ears. If you can really prove the heavenly emperor, then master will warm your bed every day. Many disciples were full of envy and jealousy when they saw Yun Qingwan's doting head patting of Ye Feng. If eyes could kill, Ye Feng should have been killed by now. If they knew the content of the spiritual power transmission, Ye Feng had no doubt that he might die again after dying 100 times. He looked at Yun Qingwan angrily, and a spiritual power transmission floated into Yun Qingwan's ears. "Master, don't you know how charming you are? Do you want to kill your good disciple?" Yun Qingwan chuckled when she heard it. Then, in public, she took Ye Feng's hand and gave him an extraordinary imperial weapon. "Come on, disciple. When you become the Holy Son, Master will give you a reward." At this time, Yun Qingwan's face was full of smiles, and her voice was extremely gentle. The decibel of their voice was neither too loud nor too low, and it was just heard by the disciples and elders around. When they saw the most beautiful and moving flower of their Tianxuan Sect looking at a man so affectionately, they instantly ignited the anger in their hearts. Looking at the eyes of those around him, Ye Feng straightened his back and looked at the fellow disciple next to him who wanted to kill him with his eyes. "What are you looking at? You won't get this treatment if you look at me again. And the master who wants to make me look bad at this moment, I must find a chance to teach her a lesson." Chapter 4 Li Qianyu teases Ye Feng, licks by Xuanyu incompetent and furious. At this time, many elders and elite disciples of the Seven Peaks gathered in Tianxuan Holy Land. Across the entire Holy Land, various great laws were surging and intertwined, and that kind of might seemed to be able to tear the sky apart and annihilate everything. "Everyone, their time has come, and the Holy Sun selection ceremony begins now." Under the awe-inspiring gazes of many disciples, Gong Huangwan slowly stood up, her voice melodious and intoxicating. As Gong Huangwan's voice fell, Ye Feng and other chief disciples of the Seven Peaks all stepped on their void and jumped onto the central battle platform. Then, all 7 people bowed and saluted. Mo Hai Peak disciple Xiao Yihan, Fenyang Peak disciple Zhu Yang, Kai Xiao Peak disciple Bai Xuanyu, Shuiyu Peak disciple Li Qianyu, Leiyang Peak disciple Song Zhentao, Shuilian Peak disciple Mu Shuali, Yunxia Peak disciple Ye Feng greeted Master Zhuo and Master Gong. Looking at the 7 people below, Zhuoxian and Gong Huangwan also nodded with satisfaction. "I believe you already know the rules. You should adjust for 1 stick of incense first. After 1 stick of incense, the selection will officially begin." At this time, many male and female disciples on the stands were looking at the 7 people. To be precise, the female disciples were looking at Ye Feng and Xiao Yihan. The male disciples were looking at Mu Shuali and Li Qianyu. The other 3 lacked some sense of existence. Both Ye Feng and Xiao Yihan were young quasi-emperors, and their looks were also handsome and extraordinary. Naturally, they were the best mate selection standards in the hearts of countless female disciples. Mu Shuali was dressed in white clothes, holding a 3-foot green sword, and standing tall and graceful. With 3,000 black hair hanging down, her face was almost perfect, without any flaws. Coupled with her cold and elegant temperament that didn't care about anything, she became a goddess-like existence in the hearts of countless disciples of Tianxuan Sect. There are even rumors in the outside world that 1,000 years later, in addition to the Yun fairy who has been the best in the world for 30,000 years, Tianxuan Sect will have another peerless Bing fairy. Although Ye Feng had seen this senior sister Mu Shuali several times before, he was still somewhat amazed when he saw this nearly perfect face again. Nowadays, I am afraid that only Master can slightly suppress this senior sister Mu in terms of beauty. If this senior sister Mu grows for another 1,000 years, it is hard to say who is the most beautiful woman in this world. It is a pity that no matter how beautiful the flowers are, they will eventually wither. Flowers that cannot bloom forever and never wither will only bloom for a short time. Then, Ye Feng turned his gaze to Li Qianyu from Yunxia Peak. When Ye Feng looked over, he found that this senior sister Li was staring at him. The look she gave him was a little presumptuous, as if he was her fertilizer. Feeling this kind of gaze, Ye Feng shuddered all over. She doesn't want to suck me dry, does she? Ye Feng naturally understood how attractive his chaotic body was to others. Didn't you see that even his beautiful master couldn't stand the temptation brought by this rapid improvement in cultivation? Not to mention this high and mighty female master, I'm afraid even some old men who don't die want to refine themselves into medicine. This must be junior brother Ye from Yunxia Peak. I've heard that junior brother Ye is a rare chaos body in the ancient times. Today I see that he is indeed extraordinary. If there is anything you don't understand about cultivation, you can come to Yunxia Peak to find senior sister Li. Senior sister will tell you everything she knows. When their eyes met, Li Qianyu saw Ye Feng's shivering look and was the first to laugh. In that case, thank you, senior sister Li. Seeing Ye Feng's embarrassment, Li Qianyu covered her lips and giggled. Senior sister, I am so many years older than you, it is my duty to teach you some things and solve your doubts. I just hope that when junior brother Ye achieves something in the future, he will not forget the kindness of senior sister. Hearing this, Ye Feng felt a little hot in his heart. Although this Li Qianyu is a little worse than Mu Shuali, she is probably better than 10 Mu Zuelis in terms of stirring people's hearts. Since she appeared in Ye Feng's sight, senior sister Mu has always had an iceberg-like expression. If you don't know, you would think that everyone in the world owes her $1. But having said that, senior sister Mu is really beautiful. Hey, senior sister Li, let's focus on the things in front of us first. Ye Feng coughed lightly, wanting to get rid of this goblin's entanglement as soon as possible. Li Qianyu smiled charmingly and said no more. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. It is rumored that chaos bodies are very manly. If I really get together with junior brother Yi, I wonder if I can withstand his power. Thinking of this, Li Qianyu's pretty face can't help but turn red. Bai Xuanyu of Yunxia Peak saw the interaction between the two and suddenly became furious. Li Qianyu, whom he had pursued for hundreds of years without success, actually took the initiative to show goodwill to this junior brother named Ye Feng in front of him. Does Bai Xuanyu have no face? I can tolerate it, but my aunt can't. Li Qianyu, what do you mean by teasing other men in front of me? Hearing Bai Xuanyu's question, Li Qianyu chuckled politely. Brother Bai, what do you mean? If I remember correctly, there seems to be no relationship between us, right? Oh, I remember now, you seem to be pursuing me. Brother Bai, you can't give me what I want. After all, you are not a chaotic body and can't help me improve my cultivation. It's impossible for us to be together. While speaking, Li Qianyu also winked playfully. Her meaning is very simple and clear. On the one hand, she told Bai Xuanyu that you are not worthy of me. On the other hand, she told Ye Feng that I am very interested in you and we can be together. I use you to improve my cultivation, and you get a beautiful beauty to serve you every day to satisfy your vanity. We each get what we need. The meaning of Li Qianyu's words is very clear, and the 7 people present all heard the meaning. Everyone present is no longer surprised by this, especially the older Zhu Yang, Song Zhentao and Mu Shuali. Over the years, they have known each other's personalities. There was nothing wrong with Li Qianyu's behavior. First, she and Bai Xuanyu had no relationship. It was just that Bai Xuanyu wanted to be a licker. Second, she flirted with Ye Feng simply to use him to improve her cultivation, and she also clearly expressed her thoughts. Who in this world is not working hard to gain benefits? Compared to those unscrupulous demons who sacrificed their blood relatives to gain cultivation and benefits, Li Qianyu's frank way of dealing with Ye Feng was undoubtedly 10,000 times kinder. Although Bai Xuanyu also understood this truth, he still couldn't swallow it. But he didn't want to hurt Li Qianyu, so he was ready to release all his anger on Ye Feng. Junior brother Ye Feng, my brother's woman is not so easy to snatch. If there is a chance, I will teach you how to respect my brother. Wardfar. Ye Feng was speechless when he heard this. Brother, can you please understand? I was forced. Since you can't explain the reason clearly, let's solve it with fists. Ye Feng, who was determined to fight back, still had a gentle look in his eyes and a smile on his face. I can understand Senior Brother Bai's feelings, but if Senior Brother Bai wants to teach me a lesson, then I can only say that you are not qualified. As soon as their voice fell, the smile on Ye Feng's face disappeared without a trace, replaced by an extreme coldness. As Ye Feng's ruthless voice fell, the atmosphere of the entire Shenzhen Holy Land instantly became stiff. Chapter 5 I envy you for not having a beautiful master. Bai Xuanyu breaks his defense. Bai Xuanyu was slightly stunned and chuckled, as if he thought he had heard something wrong. Interesting, he said softly, with a hint of teasing in his eyes, as if he had heard a funny joke. If you have the guts, I hope you still have the courage to face me. Bai Xuanyu raised the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a sneer. After the voice fell, he did not stay, turned around and left gently, with a light step, with a faint confidence and arrogance. Looking at Bai Xuanyu's departing back, everyone couldn't help but feel a complex emotion in their hearts. Although Senior Brother Yi did nothing wrong, it is not wise for you to anger Senior Brother Bai like this, Xiao Yihan said, his tone calm, without the slightest ripple. As a young genius who was less than 100 years old, Xiao Yihan had a feeling of mutual appreciation for Ye Feng. However, although they are all gifted young people, among these 7 people, each is the chief disciple of each peak. Even if there are differences in qualifications, how can they be mediocre if they can become the best of a peak? Bai Xuanyu obviously just wanted to make a harsh remark to save some face. Ye Feng's behavior of confronting him even though he knew there was no need for him to get involved really confused him. Xiao Yihan's eyes fell on Ye Feng, with a hint of doubt and thought in his eyes. Ye Feng heard the words, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, with a confident light in his eyes. Although I am not good at fighting, if someone thinks I am easy to bully, I naturally cannot indulge his bad habits. His voice was calm and firm, as if he was telling something that was taken for granted. I will become his deepest fear. His eyes became sharp, revealing a sense of determination. This is the most direct and effective method. The experience of the previous life made Ye Feng understand that facing those who are malicious and try to oppress him, blindly choosing to retreat or avoid will only make the other party take advantage of the situation and hurt him more unscrupulously. The only correct choice is to fight back with thunder-like sharp means. He also understands that blindly showing weakness will only make the other party think that he is a coward. At that time, the other party will not only not restrain himself, but will intensify all kinds of anger on himself. Therefore, if he wants him not to look down on himself, there is only one way, that is to defeat him, make him tremble all over when he sees himself, and make himself an indelible fear in his heart. No matter how others evaluate him, as long as he can achieve his goal, that is enough. Ye Feng doesn't care about the opinions of others, he only pursues practical results. In this cruel world, only the strong can survive, and becoming the fear in the hearts of the enemy is the most effective means. The 5 people present, including Mu Shuili, Xiao Yihan, were all silent. The coldness contained in Ye Feng's words shook the hearts of the other 5 people present like thunder, and they were all somewhat moved. They never thought that this seemingly gentle and non-aggressive boy actually hid such a powerful inner world. At this moment, Xiao Yihan and others present secretly made up their minds to try their best to avoid conflicts with Ye Feng in the future. They all knew that this guy was not someone who was easy to bully. Once they provoked him, the consequences would be disastrous. No one knew what kind of monster was hidden in the body of this guy named Ye Feng. Li Qianyu was even more unnatural. She couldn't help but think of the fact that she used him as a shield before. She curled her red lips with some uneasiness in her heart. This guy shouldn't be so petty. She was worried that Ye Feng would hate her for this, or find an opportunity to retaliate against her in the future. However, Li Qianyu felt that she had not done anything wrong. After all, she did intend to become a Taoist partner with Ye Feng. Although there were some considerations of interests, this could not be completely regarded as exploitation. Li Qianyu muttered softly, if this guy is really so stingy, then this lady can only sacrifice her appearance. I don't know how strong he is in other aspects. Thinking about these things, Li Qianyu's face flushed a little. While several people were thinking about their own things, Gong Huangwan and the other person on the high platform also saw this little episode. Brother, it's really worrying that these young people are making such a fuss. Gong Huangwan blinked her beautiful eyes, as if she was a little worried. Zhuoxian lowered his eyes, and a smile flashed across his weathered face. Such a competition can stimulate their fighting spirit and potential and make them keep improving in the competition. Only after the baptism of wind and rain can they really grow up and become strong and responsible people. They need to train themselves in such an environment and learn to deal with various challenges and difficulties. This is also a test for them to see who can stand out in the fierce competition. This kind of competition is both a challenge and an opportunity for them. Let them toss it. With us old guys here, nothing will happen. Senior brother's words make sense. Gong Huanghuan nodded her jade neck lightly, indicating that she agreed with Zhuzian's statement. Only with competition can they grow up faster and take on great responsibilities. One person in the first round of the Saint Sun selection will be given a bye, and the winners of the other 3 groups will advance to the next round. Finally, Mu Xueli drew a bye. And Ye Feng happened to be in the same group with Bai Xuanyu. Looking at the final result, Gong Huanghuan frowned slightly and looked at Zhuzian with her beautiful eyes. Brother, this shouldn't be a coincidence, right? Zhuzian smiled faintly and said, whether it is a coincidence or not is not important. What is important is that they need pressure so that they can grow up as quickly as possible. And don't you think this is interesting? Gong Huanghuan was speechless when she heard this. She didn't expect that this senior brother, at his age, still liked to play tricks on the younger generation. However, Gong Huanghuan was a little worried. Although Ye Feng defeated Pang Hao's triple quasi-emperor could not be compared with Bai Xuanyu. She could clearly see that Bai Xuanyu's momentum had reached the peak of the triple quasi-emperor. Ye Feng was a young quasi-emperor and a chaotic body. If he was defeated by Bai Xuanyu and was humiliated by him and damaged his Dao heart, it would undoubtedly be a huge loss for the sect. Moreover, she and her junior sister Yun Qingwan had the best relationship in private. If her beloved disciple was damaged in Dao heart because of this, I am afraid that the junior sister would blame herself. Forget it. I can only stop it when I have no choice. At this time, Ye Feng and Bai Xuanyu have already jumped into the circle in the center of Shenzhen Holy Land. I didn't expect you to stand opposite me so soon. I admit that you are a genius, but you are not my opponent now. I will let junior sister Li see clearly that you are just a pretty boy with a beautiful appearance. Bai Xuanyu's voice was filled with a hint of contempt. Ye Feng was speechless when he heard this. At this time, you are still thinking about how to be a qualified licker in your heart. It's really hopeless. Bai Xuanyu's face gradually became distorted when he heard Ye Feng's ridicule of him. You will regret it if you make me angry. Ye Feng was slightly indifferent when he heard this. You talk a lot of nonsense. At this time, Yun Qingwan didn't care about her image in everyone's mind as a fairy who fell into the mortal world, and shouted loudly. Apprentice, come on, master is optimistic about you. Everyone saw this scene and was full of envy for Ye Feng. Seeing those envious eyes, Ye Feng's vanity was greatly satisfied. He turned his head to look at Bai Xuanyu in the distance and grinned. Envy. It's useless to be envious. This is something you will never have. Not only will you not get the encouragement of such a beautiful master, but the position of the Son of God and senior sister Li that you are determined to get have already been in my pocket. Before Ye Feng finished speaking, Bai Xuanyu went berserk. Yin Yang Chong Xiao Yin. Bai Xuanyu used the magic technique of the Yunxia Peak as soon as he made a move. It was obvious that he was completely angered by Ye Feng. Looking at the two-color Yin Yang Yin. In that case, let's decide the outcome with one move. I'll make you understand that your era of being the king of Tianxuan Sect is over. Chapter 6 I will completely crush your hope. As soon as their voice fell, Ye Feng no longer hesitated, and a terrifying spiritual power fluctuation that was enough to shatter the space surged out of his body. The degree of spiritual power was even enough to rival the 4th-level quasi-emperor. He formed a seal with one hand, and a huge phantom full of ancient vicissitudes slowly appeared in the void. The phantom was dozens of feet high, standing between heaven and earth like an ancient giant. Sangyin Jiqian Finger. With a low shout from Ye Feng, the phantom full of ancient vicissitudes slowly raised his arm and gathered all the power on the index finger. Feeling the power emanating from the phantom above Ye Feng, everyone present was shocked. They widened their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. At this time, the spiritual power above the entire Tianxuan Holy Land was gradually boiling up, and the spiritual power light and electricity were like being attracted, frantically converging towards Ye Feng's body. And these spiritual power light and electricity were transmitted to the huge phantom through Ye Feng's body, making the light on the phantom more dazzling. Immediately, the light of the phantom was brighter, and the index finger emitted a heart-pounding fluctuation. Under the influence of the fluctuation, it seemed that the entire Tianxuan Peak was slowly trembling. Then, in the shocked eyes of everyone, the yin-yang double color seal and the vicissitudes of life giant finger pointed out by the phantom collided with a bang. With a loud bang, their whole space seemed to tremble, and countless cracks spread in the void. After the two collided, a crack appeared on the double color seal ball in an instant, and there was no stalemate as everyone imagined. Looking at the giant finger gathering terrifying energy in the void, Xiao Yihan, Mu Shuali and others were all shocked. Even the strong men of the fourth level of the quasi-emperor had to temporarily avoid the sharp edge of this finger. They really couldn't imagine how Ye Feng, a guy of the first level of the quasi-emperor, could release such a terrible power. What kind of monster is he? Zhu Yang, the chief of Fengyun Peak, couldn't help but exclaimed, his eyes full of disbelief. Pang Hao, the senior brother of Yunxia Peak who was defeated by Ye Feng, smiled bitterly. If junior brother Ye Feng had used all his strength when fighting me that day, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to survive a single move. But it's good this way. With junior brother Yi as the chief leading us, Yunxia Peak will definitely reach an unprecedented height. Pang Hao murmured to himself, looking at Ye Feng with admiration in his eyes. Pang Hao, who had lived in Yunxia Peak since he was a child, was also looking forward to that day. Gong Huangwan looked at this scene, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, and a gratified smile appeared on her elegant face. She whispered to herself, Junia's sister has accepted an extraordinary disciple. Before Ye Feng came out of nowhere, Bai Xuanyu had always been the best among the 7 peaks, and his strength firmly occupied the top 3 positions among the 7 peaks. Just a minute ago, almost everyone believed that Bai Xuanyu must have a place in the 3 holy sons of Tianxuan Sect. Some people even thought that with his strength and potential, he might be able to compete for the position of the leader of the 3 holy sons. However, at this moment, everyone's expectations for Bai Xuanyu were instantly shattered. This senior brother Bai, who had been a powerful figure in Tianxuan Sect for hundreds of years, might miss the position of the holy son. Feeling the terrifying fluctuations emanating from the phantom, Bai Xuanyu's face instantly turned pale as paper, and his eyes were full of disbelief. He questioned in a trembling voice, how is this possible? How can a mere first-level quasi-emperor like you gather such a terrifying offensive force? He really couldn't imagine that such an offensive force that could make a 4th-level quasi-emperor feel palpitations actually came from the hands of a first-level quasi-emperor, Ye Feng. I said, your era is over. Ye Feng's eyes were indifferent, and his voice was calm. Bai Xuanyu suddenly laughed when he heard this. You are so arrogant. I wanted to hide my strength and expose it in the final decisive battle, but now it seems that it is no longer necessary. As soon as their voice fell, Bai Xuanyu's aura suddenly surged, and he directly broke through the barrier of the 3rd level of quasi-emperor and broke through to the 4th level. With Bai Xuanyu's breakthrough, the cracks on the yin-yang double color seal began to heal slowly at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, it was restored to its original state. Although the 4th level quasi-emperor of Ye Feng's attack was generally avoided by him, Bai Xuanyu was not ordinary. Looking at the restored yin-yang double color seal, a solemn look appeared in Ye Feng's eyes. As expected, you have been the king among the disciples of Tianxuan Sect for hundreds of years. If I were not here, I am afraid that the position of the head of the Holy Sun would really be in your pocket. Although Xiao Yihan and Mu Shuali are also top talents, Xiao Yihan and Ye Feng are of similar age, only in their 50s, and Mu Shuali is just over 100 years old. In the future, their achievements will surely far surpass Bai Xuanyu in front of them, but now they are probably not Bai Xuanyu's opponents in this state. At this time, the giant finger of spiritual power in the void actually showed a sign of being repelled. This scene made everyone present feel a little regretful. They thought they could witness the emergence of a young genius today, but they didn't expect it to be just a more dazzling dark horse. However, even if Ye Feng lost, it would be enough to win their respect. Who else in the entire Tianxuan Sect could do such a thing at such an age? Xiao Yihan's heart was also filled with huge waves. He was a well-deserved young genius in Mo Haifeng. In this Tianxuan holy land, he realized that he was just one of the many geniuses favored by God. Neither Bai Xuanyu nor Ye Feng could be defeated by him now. However, this is more interesting, and this world is more exciting. After listening to Ye Feng's words, Bai Xuanyu showed a sarcastic smile on his face, and said in a sarcastic tone, it's already this time, and you are still here to show off your verbal advantage. Wait until I defeat you, and I'll see how arrogant you are. Facing Bai Xuanyu's provocation, Ye Feng was not angry, but raised his mouth slightly and chuckled. This laughter was like a sharp sword, piercing the solemn atmosphere around, making people feel a chill. Then, Ye Feng took a deep breath, his voice calm and firm. In this case, let me completely crush the hope in your heart. As these words fell, the atmosphere of the entire Tianxuan Holy Land seemed to become more tense and depressing. Chaos God and Demon Flame. In the void, a dark flame emitting the breath of the beginning of chaos and shaped like a giant dragon fell from the sky. The dark flame seemed to contain endless destructive power. Wherever it passed, the void was burned and distorted. At the same time, bursts of thunder suddenly sounded in the sky. Lightning streaks across the sky, shuttling between the clouds like silver snakes. These lightnings intertwined and entangled with each other, and finally formed a huge electric net that covered the entire Tianxuan Holy Land. Along with the dark flames, there were also thousands of thunders pouring down from the sky. 10,000 thunders fell, and the entire Tianxuan Peak was caught in the roaring thunder and lightning. The magical power that Ye Feng displayed was the innate magical power derived from his chaotic body. The power of this technique will increase as his strength increases. He believed that this technique was enough to completely defeat Bai Xuanyu. At this time, everyone on Tianxuan Holy Land was staring at this shocking scene. They understood that the winner was about to be revealed. Chapter 7 Iceberg Beauty Senior Sister Mu Shuali. In the sky above Tianxuan Holy Land, thunder and lightning roared with great momentum. The dark red dragon and the giant finger exuding ancient majestic momentum were tightly integrated together. As time passed, the ancient giant finger began to slowly expand, and its color gradually changed to an ancient dark red color. Countless thunder flashed around it, pouring down like a waterfall. On the surface of the giant finger, there was a terrifying high temperature that seemed to melt everything. Under this terrifying high temperature, even the void was burned and sizzled, as if it would break at any time. Just then, the ancient giant finger, which had originally shown a retreating trend, suddenly shone brightly again and quickly defeated the two-color yin-yang wheel. Under the impact of the ancient giant finger, the two-color yin-yang wheel finally could no longer withstand the terrible power contained in the ancient giant finger. Under the gaze of everyone in Tianxuan Holy Land, the two-color yin-yang wheel instantly shattered into countless fragments, turning into starlight and dissipating in the void. At the moment when the two-color yin-yang wheel collapsed, Bai Xuanyu also spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his breath instantly became weak. Looking at the two-color yin-yang seal returning to nothingness in the void, Bai Xuanyu's face became extremely ugly, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He never thought that his full-strength attack driven by the fourth-level realm of the Quasi-Emperor would be defeated by Ye Feng, who was at the first level of the Quasi-Emperor, at such a devastating speed. This made him feel extremely shocked and desperate. "You are such a complete bastard." Bai Xuanyu widened his eyes and shouted in a trembling voice. He couldn't believe what was happening before his eyes, and his heart was filled with fear of Ye Feng. He, Bai Xuanyu, had been in the sect for so many years, and he had never met such a perverted guy. This person spent 50 years to reach the first level of Quasi-Emperor, and with a crushing attitude, he ruthlessly beat himself, who had cultivated for nearly 1,000 years to the fourth level of Quasi-Emperor, into the abyss. While Bai Xuanyu was roaring in fear, the ancient giant finger with scorching heat did not stop after defeating the two-color yin-yang wheel, and went straight to cover where Bai Xuanyu was. "Brother Bai, it's over. As long as no one falls and no one admits defeat, the battle will not end. This is the rule of the selection of the Son of God." Looking at the vicissitudes of life, giant finger whistling towards him, Bai Xuanyu's eyes surged with a deep sense of powerlessness. He knew very well in his heart that with his current strength, even if he was in his prime, he would never be able to take this move. At this moment, he had no doubt that if this giant finger really fell on him, he would turn into dust in an instant. After a painful struggle, he finally made up his mind. "I give up." As these three words came out of Bai Xuanyu's mouth, the terrifying giant finger began to shrink slowly in his pupils, and finally disappeared into the endless void. After Ye Feng heard Bai Xuanyu's voice, a gentle smile slowly appeared at the corner of his mouth. Their whole person exuded a feeling that made people feel like being bathed in spring breeze. "Brother Bai, thank you." At this time, the gentle and humble Ye Feng was completely different from the monster with a sharp breath just now. Ye Feng's gentle appearance made Bai Xuanyu even more frightened. "This boy is too scary, it is better not to provoke him in the future. Li Qianyu is just a woman. Junior brother Yi is too modest. I have offended you in the past. I hope junior brother Yi will forgive me and don't argue with you. Junior sister Li will be junior brother Yi's Taoist partner in the future." Senior brother will definitely not fight for her anymore. While Bai Xuanyu was speaking, his breath was erratic, and it was obvious that he was seriously injured. Bai Xuanyu spoke loudly, and Li Qianyu and many people outside the fighting arena heard what he said. Whose Taoist partner is she, Li Qianyu? When did it become someone else's turn to make comments? At this time, a flash of anger flashed through Li Qianyu's heart. However, when she thought that the person others arranged for her was Ye Feng, whom she liked, her face became ruddy. If that's the case, it's good. When Ye Feng heard Bai Xuanyu's words, he glanced at his master and shuddered all over. Forget it. If the master knew that he and senior sister Li were in love, he and Li Qianyu would probably have a bad life in the future. He didn't want to annoy the master because of this matter. It would be bad if he was punished. Ye Feng muttered to himself and decided to put this idea aside for the time being. The most important thing is to concentrate on practicing and improving his strength. When his cultivation surpasses that of the master, he won't have to worry so much. Compared to fighting with this group of people, it is more interesting to fight with the master. When Ye Feng thought of this, he was very happy. Bai Xuanyu chose to give in wisely, and Ye Feng was not a person who would not let others go even if he was right, so the matter was left unresolved. After all, he was not very interested in the matter between Bai Xuanyu and Li Qianyu, and it had nothing to do with him. When the final result was announced, Yun Qingwan, who was at the highest point of the viewing platform of Yunxia Peak, stared at the figure of her apprentice, and a beautiful smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. I knew you would not let me down, she said softly, her eyes full of relief. You performed so well. When you return to Yunxia Peak, I will definitely reward you well. As the battle between Ye Feng and Bai Xuanyu came to an end, the other two competitions were launched and the winners were decided. Finally, Ye Feng, Mu Xueli, Xiao Yihan and Song Jintao successfully advanced to the second round. However, when the results of the second round of draws were announced, Ye Feng and Song Jintao were placed in the same group. Looking at the results in front of him, Song Jintao showed a bitter smile on his face, and secretly sighed in his heart, I didn't expect that my opponent would be that pervert. However, he knew that he could not give up easily no matter what, and he had to go all out even in the face of such a strong opponent. But the final outcome was like a heavy blow, and he returned in defeat. At the same time, another game ended with Mu Xueli slightly winning. Mu Xueli, the iceberg beauty, was also shocked by the strong strength shown by Xiao Yihan. If they were at the same age and realm, she would probably have little chance of winning. However, at this moment, she had no time to take care of these concerns, because she was about to face a more powerful opponent, a genius and a devil-like existence. When Mu Xueli raised her cold face and looked at Ye Feng's eyes were also locked on her tightly. The eyes of the two met in the air, as if sparks were struck. This senior sister Mu is not only beautiful, but also extremely talented and has a great figure. Ye Feng secretly praised her in his heart. In his sight, Mu Xueli was wearing an ice blue long dress, as cool and beautiful as a fairy in the ice and snow. Her figure was even more curvy and exquisite, which was eye-catching. Although her long dress was designed to be loose, it still couldn't hide the charm of her proud figure. Especially her pair of slender legs, which were amazingly long and graceful, like a work of art. Even if she was standing quietly, her posture exuded a unique temperament and beauty that made people fall in love with her. When Mu Xueli noticed that Ye Feng was looking at her, a trace of shame and anger suddenly appeared on her pretty face like an iceberg beauty. Then, a cold voice came out from Mu Xueli's mouth, Lecture. Chapter 8 Ye Feng vs Mu Xueli. Hearing Mu Xueli's cold and intoxicating voice, many disciples around cast their eyes over. They all wanted to see who could make this iceberg goddess speak up. Ye Feng, who became the focus, felt a little scalp tingling for a moment. Senior sister Mu, this is a misunderstanding. Ye Feng explained hurriedly. However, his explanation was not recognized by Mu Xueli. Mu Xueli's anger grew stronger after hearing this. You stared at me so bluntly, and you dared to say it was a misunderstanding. You are really thick-skinned. But she was too embarrassed to speak about the place where Ye Feng was staring at her, so she could only give him a fierce look with a slightly red face. At this time, Mu Xueli's elegant jade neck, like a white swan, was slightly raised, and a hint of blush and anger were revealed on her cold and beautiful face. You scoundrel, I won't let you go. After saying that, Mu Xueli didn't stop. She tapped the ground with her jade feet and flew away like a runaway. When Mu Xueli was in the air, she showed off her slender waist and long legs to the fullest. Coupled with her beautiful face and temperament and her extremely cold attitude towards everyone, it seemed as if the whole world was about to fall for her. At this time, in everyone's eyes, Mu Xueli was already an ice fairy who had fallen from the sky to the mortal world, exuding a cold and beautiful aura. Her beauty and coldness were intertwined, making people fall deeply in love with her. Everyone looked at the expression of Mu Xueli, who was like an ice goddess, when she left, and their hearts were filled with resentment. If it weren't for the residual power of Ye Feng's strong victory over Bai Xuanyu, they would definitely rush forward and beat him up. Hearing the harsh words from senior sister Mu before leaving, Ye Feng just shrugged helplessly, showing an indifferent attitude. Such threats had no killing power to him, but instead had a kind of coquettish meaning. When he saw the looks from his fellow disciples around him, he didn't care at all. These people were just a group of insignificant minions. Even if they rushed forward, he still had the powerful master as a backing. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh, "Master is still good, it's so comfortable to eat soft rice." At this moment, everything that happened in the audience just now was seen by Yun Qingwan. She looked at her precious disciple being fascinated by the little girl from Tianxuan Peak, and a trace of jealousy surged in her heart. After all, she was Ye Feng's master, but he was so obsessed with other women. "You said that you only have the way to immortality in your heart, which is all lies. Only master, who is a fool who cares about you wholeheartedly, will believe your nonsense." Yun Qingwan couldn't help but pout her delicate and charming red lips to vent her dissatisfaction. HMPH. This traitor who deceived his master, today's reward is cancelled, and he must be severely punished after returning to Yunxia Peak. At this time, Ye Feng was still immersed in the wonderful feeling of eating soft rice, but he didn't know that he would be punished by his master soon. He also foolishly showed his master a smile that he thought was very generous and decent. However, what made him dumbfounded was that the master ignored him in an unusual way. Yun Qingwan pouted her red lips slightly, pouted her little mouth and turned her pretty face to the side. "This traitor is so annoying, I don't want to pay attention to him." Seeing that the master did not ignore him in an unusual way, Ye Feng also touched his head awkwardly. "Oh, woman, if you can't even handle this bit of jealousy, how can you accomplish anything? It seems that if you want to accomplish something, you have to rely on yourself. This unreliable and beautiful master is a bit unreliable." About half an hour later, the selection of the Holy Son of Tianxuan Sect finally ushered in the final battle. Before that, the two losers in the previous round, Xiao Yihan and Song Zhentao, first competed to decide the third place. The final result was not unexpected. After witnessing the battle between Mu Xueli and Xiao Yihan, everyone knew that Song Zhentao could not defeat Xiao Yihan. And when the result really came out, it was inevitable that people sighed. "I didn't expect that Xiao Yihan from Mo Haifeng was such a monster. He is so young and he is already in the quasi-emperor realm. It's really annoying to compare with others." "Who said it wasn't? One is fine, but it's buy one get one free." At this time, many disciples began to whisper. It's already a headache to have such a monster, and their Tianxuan sect actually had two at once. Although Xiao Yihan is not as perverted as Ye Feng, this still gives them an invisible psychological pressure. There are some female disciples of Mo Haifeng in the audience who are looking at Xiao Yihan with shining eyes. A cute lowly girl of Mo Haifeng couldn't help but say what she thought. "I wish I could warm the bed for senior brother Xiao." "Junior sister, you can't handle junior brother Xiao's type, let me do it." Hearing what my senior sister said, the cute girl pursed her lips aggrievedly. While everyone was sighing, Ye Feng and Mu Xueli also flew to the fighting stage. As soon as they came on stage, they attracted everyone's attention. Ye Feng's black robe fluttered in the wind. He was as tall as a pine tree, with deep and bright eyes, revealing firmness and confidence. His long hair was as flowing as ink, gently brushing across his face, adding a bit of unruly and free and easy. Mu Xueli was wearing an ice blue dress. She was graceful and elegant, like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Her face was even more beautiful and refined, and her beautiful face was still as cold and indifferent as usual. The two stood together, forming a sharp contrast, but complementing each other, becoming a beautiful scenery on the field. Many people secretly sighed in their hearts that these two people were not only powerful, but also outstanding in appearance. They were really a match made in heaven. At this time, Ye Feng and Mu Xueli looked at each other. Ye Feng looked at this ice beauty with long legs and a curvy figure, and a ripple surged in his heart. He couldn't help but chuckle and joked, "Senior sister Mu, you have a great figure. It's really pleasing to the eye." Mu Xueli heard the words, and her cold face was instantly covered with frost. She widened her eyes, bit her red lips with her pearly teeth, and glared at Ye Feng. For so many years, no man has ever dared to treat her like this. And today, in just one day, this scoundrel treated her twice. This made Mu Xueli feel extremely angry and humiliated. Since it is unbearable, there is no need to endure it anymore. Mu Xueli shouted, "You scoundrel, today I will teach you a lesson on behalf of Uncle Yun." Before she finished speaking, the 3-foot green sword in Mu Xueli's hand was unsheathed and stabbed at Ye Feng like lightning. Her swordsmanship was extremely sharp, and each sword was chilling, as if it could freeze a person's soul. Facing Mu Xueli's attack, Ye Feng did not panic. He raised the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a faint smile, and said softly, "Sister Mu, why are you angry? I'm just telling the truth." As he said that, he flashed and easily avoided Mu Xueli's sword moves. "You scoundrel, I will make you pay." Seeing this, Mu Xueli's eyes became colder and colder. She snorted and swung the sword in her hand faster and more fiercely. She wanted to teach this frivolous and rude scoundrel a profound lesson and let him know the consequences of offending her. However, Ye Feng was still calm. He easily dodged Mu Xueli's attack and fought back from time to time, making Mu Xueli more and more angry. Ye Feng always had a smile on his face, as if he didn't care about Mu Xueli's attack. He flexibly dodged Mu Xueli's sword moves, and occasionally counterattacked, catching Mu Xueli off guard. Although Ye Feng looked relaxed on the surface, he didn't dare to be negligent in his heart. After all, Mu Xueli was at the peak of the triple quasi-emperor realm, and her strength should not be underestimated. Any small mistake is likely to make him miss the position of the head of the Holy Sun. As Ye Feng gradually became serious, the battle became more and more intense. The two of them fought back and forth, neither giving in. Every fight would generate a powerful shock wave, causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. Mu Xueli's swordsmanship was extremely sharp, and each sword contained endless power. But Ye Feng, with his keen reaction ability, cleverly avoided her attack and fought back. As the battle between the two became more and more intense, Mu Xueli also increasingly felt the powerlessness that Bai Xuanyu felt when facing Ye Feng. Although she was at the peak of the third-level quasi-emperor realm, Ye Feng, a first-level quasi-emperor, seemed to have far surpassed her in spiritual power. Moreover, she felt that Ye Feng had never used his full strength when fighting with her. Why is this lecher so perverted? How did he practice? Mu Xueli secretly groaned in her heart. She knew that if she dragged on like this, her spiritual power would be exhausted sooner or later. At that time, she could only let Ye Feng, this guy, ravage her wantonly. So, she quickly flew into the air, the 3-foot green sword in her hand flashed with cold light, and stood in front of her. Frost Flower Ice Lotus Technique. With Mu Xueli's cry, even the air above Tianxuan Holy Land seemed to be frozen, and a cold breath spread. Countless frost and ice lotus appeared in the void. These ice lotuses bloomed with dazzling light, and each of them contained a majestic spiritual power and the aura of the great Tao, giving people an endless sense of oppression. Show your true ability. If you don't use all your strength, you will have no chance. After hearing Mu Xueli's words, Ye Feng no longer hesitated. He shook his body and flew into the air like a flash of lightning. At this time, a huge spiritual power surged out of his body, like a surging sea wave, sweeping across the entire space. There were bursts of thunder in the sky above Tianxuan Holy Land. The majestic momentum made the heaven and earth change color. Chapter 9 Leader, Sister Mu's attitude changes, strange black light. At this time, in the air of Tianxuan Holy Land, countless ice lotuses were staring at Ye Feng, but Ye Feng was calm and even had a faint smile on his lips. He slowly urged the majestic spiritual power that burst out from his body. At the same time, the spiritual power between heaven and earth seemed to be summoned and swept towards Ye Feng. As the spiritual power of heaven and earth continued to gather, Ye Feng's aura became stronger and stronger. Then, he displayed the second life power of his own chaotic body, Chaos Open Heaven Blade. In an instant, a huge sword of opening the sky with a length of dozens of feet hung above the sky, exuding a terrifying breath that made people palpitate. The body of this huge lightsaber is simple, showing a dark gold color, with an ancient charm. In addition to the flashing thunder, the lightsaber was also covered with various laws of the avenues and order light chains formed by light patterns, making the whole sword look mysterious and majestic. The thunder above the sky flashed more wildly at this moment, and the strong wind seemed to begin to make a sound of mourning and wailing, as if it was afraid of the power that was about to descend on the world. Ye Feng knew that the seemingly pure and beautiful Sister Mu in front of him was not just a vase with nothing on the surface, and her strength should not be underestimated. Her degree of danger was no less than by Xuanyu of Yunxia Peak, and even better. Even if he used the Chaos God and Demon Flame that defeated by Xuanyu, it would be difficult to defeat him completely. Only this more powerful Chaos Blade of Creation could make him laugh to the end. Senior Sister Mu, your strength really surprises me. But, that's all. Looking at the terrifying lightsaber gathering above Ye Feng, Mu Xueli's pretty face, which was already covered with frost, became even colder. How is this possible? What kind of monster is this lecher? When Ye Feng defeated Bai Xuanyu, she was somewhat relieved. Fortunately, Bai Xuanyu was strong enough, and the two of them forced each other to reveal their trump cards. In this way, no matter who wins, they will not be caught off guard. Although the Chaos God and Demon Flame is powerful, it has not reached the point where it cannot cope with it at all. Although Xiao Yihan, who is threatening, is a genius, he is far from being so perverted. Originally, according to the development of things, it is basically a matter of 80% for her to become the head of the Holy Sun. This is also what her master Yu Xuan has always expected of her. Now, as Ye Feng used this chaos blade that exuded an extremely terrifying aura, Mu Xueli's fantasy was completely shattered. She really couldn't imagine that after a big battle with someone like Bai Xuanyu, Ye Feng still had such a powerful trump card in his hand. This simply broke her cognition. At this moment, Mu Xueli was just like Bai Xuanyu in the past. She felt that her state of mind seemed to collapse. Many disciples and deacons on the viewing platform opened their mouths and couldn't speak when they saw this scene. An elder couldn't help but make a sound at this time. Is this kid still a human? Can this really be performed by a little guy of the first level of quasi-emperor? Everyone was silent after hearing this, and no one knew how to answer him. Li Qianyu, who was sitting on the seat of Yunxia Peak, also opened her red lips slightly and couldn't speak. This guy is really a pervert. Unlike the shock of everyone, Yun Qingwan was staring at Ye Feng with her eyebrows relaxed and her pretty face full of smiles. I didn't expect this traitor to have a hidden trick. He comprehended the second innate magical power without even notifying me, his master. It's really annoying. I must increase the punishment after returning to Yunxia Peak to make him remember it. When Zhuoxian and Gong Huangwan, the two giants, looked at Ye Feng, their eyes were full of satisfaction. While everyone was shocked, Ye Feng began to tremble with excitement. After this move, he was the leader of the Holy Sons of Tianxuan Sect. This identity will definitely allow him to be cultivated vigorously by the sect, and then the road to immortality in his heart will reduce many difficulties and twists and turns. The road to immortality is just around the corner. Ye Feng whispered softly, as if he had seen the magnificent picture of himself towering over the sky and overlooking all living beings. Senior Sister Mu, you have to be careful. Mu Xueli had no expression on her face when she heard the words. Although this lecher's character was not very good, his strength was really beyond doubt. Frost Flower Ice Lotus. As Mu Xueli raised her elegant white swan neck and let out a cry, thousands of ice lotuses whistled towards Ye Feng. Seeing this, Ye Feng changed the seal in his hand, and the sky-opening light blade went straight to meet the thousands of ice lotuses. Countless ice lotuses gathered together and collided with the sword light. Gong Huangwan looked at this scene with her beautiful eyes and made a soft sound. This battle is about to end. A moment later, the giant object condensed by the ice lotus instantly exploded and turned into light spots all over the sky. As the ice lotus disappeared, the lightsaber crushed towards Mu Xueli in an overbearing manner. Finally, the lightsaber stopped motionlessly in her pupils about a foot in front of Mu Xueli. Senior Sister Mu, thank you. Mu Xueli felt a little bitter when she heard this. I didn't expect that I would lose in the end. Master, Lear has failed your expectations of me. Ye Feng, you win. After saying that, she turned around and left. Because she didn't have a good impression of this lecher. However, before Mu Xueli turned around, a black light with a strange aura burst out from behind her. Senior Sister Mu, be careful. Seeing this, Ye Feng hurriedly controlled the sword light that had not yet dissipated to bypass Mu Xueli and block the strange black light. He rushed to Mu Xueli, hugged her delicate body and threw her aside. The Kaitian light blade was instantly annihilated into nothingness the moment it came into contact with the black light. At this time, Zhuoxian also took action to compress and annihilate the black light. Although Zhuoxian took action in time, Ye Feng and the others were still slightly affected. Mu Xueli was not seriously injured because she was tightly hugged by Ye Feng. At this time, Ye Feng was clinging to Mu Xueli's exquisite body, but he had no intention of enjoying the beauty of this moment. A mouthful of blood gushed out of his mouth uncontrollably. Mu Xueli had no time to care about the embarrassment of being flirted with by this scoundrel, and her face was full of anxiety. Junior brother Yi, how are you? She subconsciously called Ye Feng junior brother. Ye Feng chuckled and joked with her, I was about to die, but I feel much better after hearing senior sister Mu's concern for me. Mu Xueli heard this, and a hint of shy anger appeared in her eyes that were usually full of frost. At this time, you still have the mind to joke, you are really a scoundrel. Ye Feng fainted in an instant before he could answer. Mu Xueli held the unconscious Ye Feng in her arms, and a strange ripple passed through her cold heart. At this time, everyone had already reacted. Yun Qingwan, who was eager to protect her children, came to the fighting arena and shouted angrily regardless of her identity and image. You weird clan are so bold, do you really think that there are no creatures in my world? The black light was full of weirdness and ominousness, and it was obviously the work of those weird clans from outside the plane. At this time, an arrogant and weird laugh came slowly from the void. He, I'm afraid your Tianxuan Sect can't represent this world yet. It's a pity that we couldn't kill these two little things with great potential. They will definitely be a big trouble for our clan in the future, but it doesn't matter. When my master breaks the seal and comes out, you will all become slaves of my clan. Since you have come to my Tianxuan holy land, leave this clone behind. An old and majestic voice came from the depths of Tianxuan Peak and resounded throughout the Holy Land. At the same time, a golden light shot out, and a shrill scream was heard in the void. He Zhenqian, I will remember the revenge for killing my clone today. When my master wakes up, it will be the end of you lowly native creatures. After their voice disappeared, the entire Tianxuan Peak returned to peace again. He is fine, just a little affected, he will be fine after a period of rest. Hearing the words of her senior sister Gong Huangwan, Yun Qingwan was relieved, took back her beloved disciple from Mu Xueli and the elders and disciples of Yunxia Peak and left Tianxuan Peak. At this time, Gong Huangwan and Zhuoxian looked at each other and saw their solemnity in each other's eyes. The strange force that had been silent for 30,000 years took action again, coupled with the cause and effect discovered by the head teacher. Within 10,000 years, the catastrophe will come. Chapter 10 Masters Care the Strongest Power of Chaos and Weirdness. In Yunxia Peak, in the bedroom of the Empress Peak Master Yun Qingwan. At this time, a full month had passed since the Tianxuan Sect's Holy Sun ceremony, but Ye Feng still showed no signs of waking up from his coma. Beside Ye Feng's bed, a beautiful figure in a bright red dress sat cross-legged quietly. Her eyes always stayed on Ye Feng, and a deep worry was revealed in her eyes. This person was the Peak Master of Yunxia Peak Yun Qingwan. Her peach-like eyes were full of worry, and she whispered softly, Senior sister clearly said that this little traitor was not in any serious trouble. Why hasn't he woken up after so long? When she remembered that this little traitor was in such a predicament because of the little girl who saved Xuelian Peak, she couldn't help but feel an inexplicable jealousy and grievance in her heart. She was very caring towards this little traitor, and even took good care of him here, but he always made her worry. Especially when she thought of the scene where this traitor always messed with the little girl from Xuelian Peak, she was even more furious. This damn little traitor always makes me unhappy, it's better not to wake up. In this way, he won't go out to mess around again. Yun Qingwan couldn't help but whispered in anger. However, at this moment, Yun Qingwan suddenly found that Ye Feng's fingers moved slightly. Her heart jumped suddenly, and she hurriedly moved closer to observe. Ye Feng's eyelids trembled slightly, as if he might open his eyes at any time. Yun Qingwan's mood suddenly became complicated. She hoped that he would wake up quickly, but she was also worried that he would do something to make her angry after waking up. But no matter what, she was relieved to see that her little traitor had signs of waking up. At the same time, there was a beautiful person with a cold breath outside the hall. This figure is Mu Xueli. She stood there quietly, with a look of determination and persistence in her eyes. During this month, Mu Xueli came to Yunxia Peak every day. But every time she came to Yun Qingwan's Peak Master's Hall, she was turned away. Yun Qingwan did this deliberately, as if to declare her sovereignty to Mu Xueli. However, Mu Xueli did not back down. Although she was turned away every time, Mu Xueli would still come to visit as usual. In any case, Ye Feng was in danger to save her. If he had not rescued her in time, he might have died in Tianxuan Peak. She will never forget this kindness. Since her parents were brutally killed by the demons when she was 15 years old, her master Yu Shuang brought her back to Tianxuan Peak and taught her to practice hard. Take the people of the world as your responsibility and never slack off. For more than 100 years, Mu Shueli has been like a ruthless cultivation machine, repeating the same thing every day: cultivation, cultivation, and cultivation again. That day on Tianxuan Peak, Mu Shueli felt the feeling of being cared for again since her parents passed away. This feeling made her feel extremely warm, but at the same time she felt guilty. She couldn't let go of the fact that Ye Feng was injured because of her own reasons. At this time, Mu Shueli was wearing an ice blue long dress, and her figure stood quietly in front of the main hall of Yunxia Peak. Her eyes were full of determination and resoluteness, as if she was declaring something to the world. There was a guilty look on her cold and pretty face, and there was also an indescribable emotion. "Junior brother Yi, you must wake up." Her voice was soft and firm, with endless expectations and desires. "If you don't wake up one day, I will stay in Yunxia Peak for one day." This sentence was like a vow, and it was moving when it came out of her mouth. Mu Shueli stood there quietly, like a blooming ice lotus, exuding a cold and charming breath. When Master Yun Qingwan and senior sister Mu Shueli were both worried about Ye Feng, a memory from more than 30 years ago emerged in the mind of Ye Feng, who was in a coma. "Tomorrow, you will go to Tianxuan Sect." Standing in front of Ye Feng was a middle-aged man with a few strands of white hair in his black hair. "Why go there?" The 18-year-old Ye Feng in his memory asked his doubts. The middle-aged man replied softly, "There, my former brothers will teach you how to become a person of value to this world." "Then what about the strange power you injected into my body?" "You first injected this strange dark power into my body. Wouldn't it be a death for me to go to the so-called righteous holy place like Tianxuan Sect?" Ye Feng asked his doubts again. The middle-aged man shook his head slightly, with a trace of incomparably firm self-confidence in his eyes. "I have set up a prohibition to isolate and detect the strange power in your body. Even if He Zhenqian, the head of Tianxuan Sect, does not check carefully, he will not be able to find this power." Ye Feng said silently, "Why me?" "Because you have a chaotic physique. The chaotic power when the world was created is not afraid of this strange dark power at all. Only you can perfectly integrate these two powers at the same time and use them for yourself." Finally, the boy in the memory set out on the road to Tianxuan Sect. Before leaving, he asked the last question: "Are you also from Tianxuan Sect?" The middle-aged man chuckled when he heard it. There was sadness, warmth, and a fleeting nostalgia in the smile. "I used to be, but now I am the big devil in their mouths." The scenes in the memory flashed by, and Ye Feng suddenly got up and woke up from his coma. Seeing his beloved disciple wake up, Yun Qingwan was instantly surprised and leaned over to press herself against Ye Feng's shoulders and hugged him tightly. "I was afraid that he would disappear if I let go." "Disciple, you finally woke up." Master was almost worried to death. Ye Feng was still in fear at this time. He was relieved when he saw that he was in the Peak Master Hall of Yunxia Peak. He carefully felt the strange dark power in his body. It was this power that made him detect the strange black light one step ahead of Zhuoxian and other peak masters at Tianxuan Peak that day. The power carried by the strange black light was enough to penetrate Sister Mu and kill him together. If it weren't for the power in his body, I'm afraid he wouldn't wake up. Ye Feng sorted out his emotions, felt the soft and fragrant embrace of his master, and a touch of warmth surged in his heart. He knew that during the time he was unconscious, his master must have been guarding by his side and never left. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a little sour in his nose. "Master, I'm fine now. I'm sorry to have made you worry about me." Hearing the voice of the traitor, Yun Qingwan slowly broke free from his arms. Her voice of reproach and distress echoed in the bedroom. "You stupid disciple, always thinking about others so recklessly. Before the Holy Sun ceremony, what did Master tell you? Safety is the most important thing. Did you ignore it? If you really can't wake up, Master will never forgive you in this life." Looking at the emotional Yun Qingwan in front of him, Ye Feng was full of self-blame and guilt. He understood that his behavior brought too much worry and trouble to the master. Immediately, he stretched out his arms and domineeringly hugged Yun Qingwan into his arms, let her lean on his shoulders, and comforted her softly. "Master, I know I was wrong. I will take good care of myself in the future." Hearing this, Yun Qingwan smiled with satisfaction. "By the way, the little girl from Snow Lotus Peak is still outside. Go and drive her away quickly. Master doesn't want to see her." Ye Feng was slightly shocked when he heard what his master said. Sister Mu, the extremely cold ice lotus, actually worries about others. If this kind of thing spreads among the peaks of Tianxuan Sect, it will definitely make people drop their jaws. Chapter 11. The tenderness wrapped around the heart. Ye Feng tidied his clothes and walked towards the door carefully. He gently pushed the door open, and the door hinge made a slight creaking sound. The light outside the door shone into the room, forming a bright beam of light. The beam of light not only shone into the room, but also shone on Ye Feng's handsome face. When the handsome face under the sun appeared in front of her, Mu Shuali ignored the surprise that Ye Feng's awakening brought to her. For a moment, her pair of ice blue eyes were slightly absent-minded. Looking at the icy beauty who was looking at him in a trance, Ye Feng's mouth corners slightly raised, and a sense of pride surged in his heart. My charm is really unparalleled. I want to be low-key, but my strength does not allow it. He stretched out his palm and gently waved it in front of the cold and beautiful girl. Senior Sister Mu. Ye Feng's voice pulled Mu Shuali back to reality from her trance. She suddenly came back to her senses and realized her loss of composure just now. A trace of ruddy appeared on her pretty face. Thank you for what happened that day. I will definitely pay you back if I have the chance. The voice was low but melodious, extremely pleasant to the ears. There was a hint of shyness and gratitude in the tone. Since you have recovered, I will take my leave first. As soon as their voice fell, Mu Shuali twisted her willow waist and wanted to turn around and leave. Ye Feng grabbed Mu Shuali's soft white wrist, and a gentle smile appeared on his handsome face. Sister Mu, since you are here, please sit at Yunxia Peak for a while. The cool and smooth touch is as refreshing as mutton fat jade, making people intoxicated. Ye Feng's words were against his master's intention. Seeing Sister Mu, who was like a fairy who fell into the mortal world, Ye Feng threw his master's instructions behind his head. As for being punished, it is not certain who will be tortured. Feeling her snow-white wrist being held by Ye Feng, Mu Shuali's cold and beautiful eyes also flashed a hint of shame and anger. Junior brother Yi, let me go first. Hearing Mu Shuali's address to him, Ye Feng was suddenly a little happy. Even though I'm in this state, she didn't call me a pervert with a cold face like before, doesn't it mean? Thinking like this, Ye Feng became bolder. He held Mu Shuali's hand tightly and said firmly, if Senior Sister Mu doesn't want to stay in our Yunxia Peak, then I won't let go. After hearing this, Mu Shuali struggled slightly for a few times, but Ye Feng held her white wrist tightly and refused to let go. After a futile struggle, Mu Shuali had to blush and nodded helplessly. So, a man and a woman walked side by side towards a beautiful scenery called Yuntinghai on Yunxia Peak. On their way to Yuntinghai together, the scene of the two walking together was recorded by many disciples of Yunxia Peak with crystal balls. Is that Senior Sister Mu from Shualian Peak? She's so beautiful. This Senior Sister Mu is as pretty as an immortal. I've been in Tianxuan Sect for thousands of years, and I've never seen such a beautiful woman except our Peak Master. I really envy Senior Brother Yi. He has a beautiful master like the Peak Master, and a peerless beauty like Senior Sister Mu. If I can get one of them, I'll die without regrets. Hearing that many disciples from Yunxia Peak were talking about her, the blush on Mu Shuali's cheeks never faded along the way. From childhood to adulthood, where has she been talked about so recklessly? At this moment, Mu Shuali just wanted to escape from this place as soon as possible. Seeing this, Ye Feng couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth slightly. Such a shy and lovely Senior Sister Mu has a different flavor compared to the temperament of a frosty beauty. After a while, the two came to a cliff together. Below this cliff is a bottomless natural chasm hidden by clouds. Above the cliff, the mountains and plains are full of brightly colored flowers and lush greenery, glowing with vitality. Their vast cliff top is filled with the sound of birds and fragrance of flowers, which is refreshing. Seeing such a paradise on earth, Mu Shuali's usually cold face also showed a hint of obsession. Senior Sister Mu, how can you stand and enjoy such a beautiful scenery? Seeing the joy in the eyes of the ice fairy in front of him, Ye Feng no longer hesitated and once again held the snow-white wrist and sat in the pavilion. Feeling the palm of the arm again, although Mu Shuali felt a little shy, she did not struggle or refuse again. Feeling that Mu Shuali did not refuse, Ye Feng also felt relieved and did not take any further action, but quietly accompanied the beautiful woman beside him to appreciate the beautiful scenery in front of him. Suddenly, a soft and pleasant voice sounded in Ye Feng's ears. Do you know that since leaving Tianxuan Peak that day, the scene of you blocking that strange black light for me has been echoing in my mind, and it has been lingering for a long time. Ye Feng said, "Senior Sister Mu, what happened later?" Mu Xueli's pretty face flushed slightly when she heard this. "Later, that scene was forcibly expelled from my mind. However, the boy who risked his life to save me will always remain in my mind and I can never forget it. I don't know why I am like this, but I know I like this feeling very much." Ye Feng's body shook slightly and looked at the cold and beautiful Senior Sister Mu. The four looked at each other, and neither of them spoke, but there was endless tenderness flowing in their eyes. In this situation, no matter how many words are icing on the cake. He stretched out his hands without hesitation to embrace the slender and soft waist of the beautiful woman in front of him. He kissed the red lips that were cool to the touch but warm and fragrant. Mu Xueli's heart trembled slightly and then she closed her watery eyes. After a long time, their lips parted. Looking at the girl in front of him, Ye Feng remembered the strange dark power in his body and the middle-aged man who asked him to join the Tianxuan Sect. "Sister Mu, I will definitely experience many fatal things in my future. Before Ye Feng finished speaking, a white jade finger pressed against his lips. "No matter what happens, I will accompany you to face it together." Her voice was extremely gentle, with a hint of warmth that could not be offset by anything. After Mu Xueli's voice fell, Ye Feng grabbed the white jade hand against his lips and made his promise. "Senior Sister Mu, no matter what difficulties and obstacles you encounter in the future, I will stand in front of you and block everything for you just like I did on Tianxuan Peak that day." Mu Xueli nodded slightly, and also expressed her own thoughts. "In that case, I will stand behind you. If someone wants to hurt you from behind, they must first step over my body." Mu Xueli's voice turned into a softness that could not be cut by any sharp sword and tightly wrapped around Ye Feng's heart. That softness seemed to be able to easily melt the will of this world. Ye Feng's heart trembled slightly. He didn't expect Sister Mu to say such a thing. He knew Mu Xueli's character very well. Ye Feng was very moved at this moment. The atmosphere was right again, and there was no one around. Ye Feng flicked his finger to set up a light shield that blocked sound and sight. Then, in Mu Xueli's shy eyes, he was ready to untie the waist ribbon that bound her ice blue dress. Seeing this, Mu Xueli hurriedly stretched out her jade hand to stop Ye Feng's action. Her face was blushing, and she whispered in a low voice, "Junior brother Yi, this is too fast, give me some more time, okay? When I'm ready, I will give myself to you completely." At the end, her voice was so low that it was inaudible. Seeing the extremely shy appearance of the ice fairy of Tianxuan Sect, Ye Feng's heart itched slightly. However, Sister Mu said this, although he felt hot in his heart, he still gently helped Mu Xueli tie the waist belt. Seeing this scene, Mu Xueli was quietly relieved, but also had some inexplicable loss, but more of it was joy and sweetness. Ye Feng respected her opinion so much, which proved that Ye Feng had her in his heart and loved her from the bottom of his heart. How could she not feel happy and sweet? Seeing Mu Xueli's happy look, Ye Feng said softly, "Senior sister, no matter when, I will respect your opinion. Now, I want to kiss you, senior sister, okay?" Ye Feng looked at the shy and beautiful person in front of him with deep affection in his eyes, stretched out his arms and gently embraced it into his arms. Hearing Ye Feng say such straightforward words, Mu Xueli's body trembled. After repeated struggles in her heart, she finally gave up the shyness in her heart, hugged Ye Feng passionately, and nodded gently in his arms. Being held in Ye Feng's arms, Mu Xueli felt her heart pounding, and the deer in her heart seemed to be about to jump out of her heart. At this moment, she was more nervous and excited than every moment in her life in the past 100 years. Nestling in Ye Feng's broad and warm embrace, her heart was filled with happiness and sweetness. Her pretty face was flushed like the morning glow, and her pair of ice blue eyes became blurred. Suddenly, Ye Feng lowered his head and kissed her red lips fiercely. Although the shy Mu Xueli didn't know how to kiss, in order to make her beloved happy, she also responded clumsily and seriously. At this moment, their lips were tightly pressed together, as if they would never be separated. Chapter 12 Fairy Master's Punishment. The two of them stayed at the beautiful cliff of Yun Qingwan on Yunxia Peak for a very long time. It was not until the sun was about to set that Ye Feng reluctantly let Mu Xueli leave. At the time of parting, the ice fairy Mu Xueli bit her red lips with her pearly teeth, her eyes full of reluctance. "Junior brother Yi, although senior uncle Yun doesn't like me very much, I will work hard to change my cold personality and make her change her opinion of me." Upon hearing this, Ye Feng expressed his thoughts, "Senior sister Mu, you don't have to be like this. It's me who is with you, not the master." You don't have to care about what others think of you because of me, you just have to be your true self. At the same time, he couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart. Senior Sister Mu, my master is jealous. As long as we are still together, no matter what we do, it will be in vain. Ye Feng only thought about this kind of thing in his mind and naturally would not say it out loud. Mu Shuali nodded gently, and a warm feeling surged in her heart. Junior brother Yi, it's getting late. I have to go back to Snow Lotus Peak first. Ye Feng nodded slightly, kissed Senior Sister Mu on the forehead, and watched her leave. After returning to the main hall of Yunxia Peak, Ye Feng saw his master with a frosty face sitting quietly on the lotus throne. Seeing Yun Qingwan's pretty face covered with frost, Ye Feng immediately put on a flattering smile and walked forward. Master, it's really because Senior Sister Mu is so grateful to me for saving my life that I can't refuse her kindness, so I have no choice but to stay outside for a while longer. I just drove Senior Sister Mu away according to Master's instructions, and I came back immediately to report to Master. While speaking to please his master, Ye Feng had already come behind Yun Qingwan with ease. He stretched out his claws and massaged her shoulders carefully and gently through the red palace robe. In the past, whenever Master was about to get angry, I was able to calm his rage by being sensible and well-behaved. He believed that his master still doted on his only disciple as much as before. However, at this time Yun Qingwan was not the same as before. A hint of anger flashed in Yun Qingwan's beautiful eyes, and she stood up suddenly. How dare you treat your teacher so disrespectfully? Yun Qingwan shouted angrily, her face as cold as ice. Suddenly, a terrifying pressure erupted from Yun Qingwan's body, and the entire hall was covered and enveloped by the terrifying power that erupted from her body. Under such pressure, Ye Feng's body was unable to move at all. Yun Qingwan slowly stood up and laid Ye Feng down on the lotus platform. Immediately, Ye Feng saw his master, who had a beautiful and voluptuous figure, sitting elegantly on the petals on the side of the golden lotus platform. Then, he felt a foot that was filled with charming fragrance and sparkling with 5 rubies. Pressed it hard on his face. Since you have turned a deaf ear to Master's words, Master can only punish you severely. The voice was pleasant and melodious but carried a hint of anger. It was obvious that his master was really angry this time. Ye Feng reached out and gently moved the jade hand away from his face, his voice becoming more and more sincere. Master, I know I was wrong, please forgive me. Yun Qingwan frowned slightly and said sternly, Humph, am I going to let you go so easily? Then won't you take my words even less seriously in the future? Master, don't I have any credibility in your heart? Looking at Ye Feng's aggrieved eyes, Yun Qingwan suddenly felt soft-hearted. But when she thought about how she had taken care of this traitor for a whole month, and how he went to find the little girl from Snow Lotus Peak as soon as he woke up, she became even angrier. No, he must be taught a lesson. You little traitor, you have cheated me of so many imperial weapons and imperial skills. Give them all back to me. Then he felt that the ring on his right hand had disappeared. But there was an extra ring in Yun Qingwan's hand. It was his storage ring. After Yun Qingwan opened the storage ring, the things inside flowed into her storage ring like water. All those precious imperial weapons, imperial techniques and other treasures were swept away by her. Even the items that Ye Feng usually collected were not spared and were all confiscated. Ye Feng's heart was bleeding. These are the treasures he collected with great effort. Just like that. Master, how could you do this? Ye Feng wanted to cry but had no tears. He felt like his heart was broken. Yun Qingwan ignored Ye Feng's complaints and had a smug smile on her face. She seemed to enjoy the pleasure of confiscating her apprentice's treasures. Ye Feng sighed helplessly, thinking, forget it, I can't see anything now anyway, out of sight, out of mind. At this moment, Yun Qingwan smiled gently, stretched out her finger and pointed at Ye Feng's chest. The soft touch made Ye Feng's heart tremble. Yun Qingwan chuckled, then stuck out her tongue and licked her red lips. Then, she actually raised her jade hand and pinched Ye Feng's chin. HMPH, you little rascal, let's see if you dare to be naughty again in the future. Yun Qingwan said coquettishly. Ye Feng felt the fragrance coming from Yun Qingwan, and couldn't help feeling a little distracted. She patted Ye Feng's shoulder gently and said, Okay, I'll let you off this time. Remember not to make me angry next time. Also, since you like that little girl from Snow Lotus Peak so much, Master will reluctantly indulge you this time. But remember, you can only have her from now on. If I find out that you have such thoughts about other women again, I will definitely break your legs and destroy your cultivation." When Ye Feng heard this, his eyes instantly brightened. "So, Master agrees with me and Senior Sister Mu." Yun Qingwan nodded slightly and said, "This is just one, if there is another one, I will not let him off easily." After he finished speaking, the pressure in the hall also quietly dissipated. Ye Feng took Yun Qingwan down from the petals of the lotus platform with surprise and held her gently in his arms. "Master, I know you are the best." Yun Qingwan raised her jade hand and lightly touched Ye Feng's brow, pouting coquettishly. "It's good to know. In this world, only Master is truly kind to you. Other women are liars. You must learn to distinguish right from wrong. Don't be fooled by those evil-minded women out there and still think about the good things about others." Ye Feng nodded slightly to show that he understood. "You bad master, wait until my cultivation level surpasses yours, he. Although the master looks extremely domineering, she is actually very thin-skinned." Without waiting for Yun Qingwan to speak, Ye Feng kissed her red lips hard. "Master, you took the initiative to ask for a kiss today. You must have been missing me for a long time. Don't talk, just kiss me." Chapter 13, Master helps to break through, destroy the Star Sea. After coming out of the main hall of Yunxia Peak, Ye Feng looked refreshed and energetic, with a look of happiness and joy on his face. Just now, his cultivation, which had been stagnant and stuck at the peak of the first level of Quasi-Emperor, finally broke through successfully and entered the realm of the second level of Quasi-Emperor. The most important thing is that in order to help him break through smoothly, Master Yun Qingwan also took out her own treasured 1,000-year-old cloud Ganoderma lucidum for him to absorb and refine. This also made Ye Feng more determined to be nicer to his master in the future. This trip to the Peak Master's Hall was very beneficial to him, and it greatly improved his cultivation. At the same time, Yun Qingwan also obtained a large amount of chaotic blood power from Ye Feng. It can be said that the two of them are like a pair of complementary people specially arranged by God. Yun Qingwan is already in the middle stage of the Emperor Nether Realm. Due to her relatively strong strength, the improvement brought to her by the power of the Chaos bloodline is relatively small. However, as time goes by, these chaotic forces will gradually accumulate, and will eventually help Yun Qingwan quickly break through to the late stage of the Emperor Yu realm. After Ye Feng left, Yun Qingwan slowly closed her beautiful eyes, quietly sat cross-legged on the lotus platform, and began to refine the chaotic power she had just obtained. She concentrated on integrating these chaotic forces into her body, making them part of her own strength. In the future, you must keep a close eye on this traitor and don't let him go out and mess around with other women again. The apprentice I have taken care of for more than 30 years cannot be allowed to take advantage of others. Even if that little girl from Tianxuan Peak wants to enter Yunxia Peak, she has to listen to me, otherwise I will kick her out. I, Yun Qingwan, am the Empress of Yunxia Peak. I am the traitor's master. I am the most important person in his heart. On the day Ye Feng woke up, Zhuoxian and Gong Huangwan from Tianxuan Peak received the news. The next day, Ye Feng, Mu Shuili and Xiao Yihan were summoned to Tianxuan Peak together. On weekdays, the people on Tianxuan Peak are all deacons and elders who handle various sect affairs, and there are no ordinary disciples. These deacons and elders are not outsiders either, they are all former disciples of the Tianxuan Sect. When one reaches the age of 3000 or the strength reaches the fourth level of the mid-level Quasi-Emperor, one can leave the Tianxuan Sect and go out into the vast starry sky to train. Of course, if you don't want to leave, you can stay in the sect and become a deacon or elder. After reaching the fourth level of Quasi-Emperor realm, if one's strength is not over 3000 years old, or if one's strength is not over 3000 years old but has not reached the fourth level of Quasi-Emperor realm, one can still be regarded as a disciple of Tianxuan Sect. The former takes Bai Xuanyu from Kaixia Peak as an example, and the latter takes Pang Hao from Yunxia Peak as an example. After Ye Feng arrived at the Tianxuan Holy Land in front of the main hall of Tianxuan Peak, Mu Shuili and Xiao Yihan also came here. There were also some deacons and elders around who were busy with sect affairs. Seeing senior sister Mu, Ye Feng smiled, walked to her side naturally, and reached out to hold her fair and slender hand. The two of them had just confirmed their relationship yesterday, and today, when Ye Feng held Mu Shuili's hand in public, her face couldn't help but turn red, as tempting as a ripe apple. She struggled a few times, trying to break free from Ye Feng's big hand, but Ye Feng held that white and soft body tightly in his hand, making it impossible for her to escape. After several unsuccessful attempts, Mu Shuili glared at him shyly with her beautiful eyes, then stopped struggling and let him flirt with her. Feeling Mu Shuili's obedience, Ye Feng raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said with a smile, senior sister, our relationship will be made public sooner or later, so just take this as an opportunity to adapt in advance. Mu Shuali blushed, nodded slightly, and said nothing. Her personality was naturally cold and she was even more shy about matters of the heart. Now that she had such a response, Ye Feng was already very satisfied. Xiao Yihen, who was standing by, saw the two people holding hands together and immediately understood what was going on. However, he did not pay much attention to this, because Xiao Yihen had his own beliefs and pursuits in his heart. After the three of them waited in front of their hall for a stick of incense, an elder with the cultivation level of Emperor Illumination Realm brought the three of them to Zhuoxian and Gong Huangwan. The first person to speak was the plump and pretty Gong Huangwan. She smiled slightly, looked at Ye Feng gently, and asked with concern, Ye Feng, how is your injury? Ye Feng quickly replied respectfully, thank you for your concern, master. I am fine now. Gong Huangwan nodded, her eyes full of kindness, that's good, your master grew up under the care of me, your uncle. I can see that she has high expectations of you. You must work hard to improve your cultivation and don't let her down. Ye Feng could sense a hint of expectation and encouragement in Gong Huangwan's tone. It seemed that this uncle-master had a pretty good relationship with his master. Ye Feng nodded heavily and said, Junia will remember the teachings of master-uncle. Gong Huangwan looked at Ye Feng deeply, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. Second level of quasi-emperor, your cultivation speed is quite amazing. However, this breakthrough is timely. Ye Feng said modestly, it was just luck. Ye Feng felt a little guilty at this moment. If her uncle knew that it was all thanks to her little sister, she wondered how she would feel. The reason I summoned you three here this time is because of the appearance of the Silent Star Sea. After Gong Huangwan expressed her concern for the younger generation, Zhuoxian on the side also talked about business. The Silent Star Sea. Upon hearing this, the three of them all showed a hint of shock in their eyes. Obviously, they also have some understanding of this place. Not only that, Zhuoxian also gave them an explanation on the spot. The so-called Silent Star Sea is a realm in the human world in the void of the vast universe. During the catastrophe 30,000 years ago, this area was an important battlefield. There are countless powerful people there, including some emperor-level strong men. Even some powerful emperors in the profound emperor realm died there. Because of the impact of the war, the Silent Star Sea disappeared in the void turbulence of the vast universe after the war ended 30,000 years ago. Because of that great war, there must be many ancient forces from 30,000 years ago that left behind their great inheritance. Although these inheritances have little appeal to the older generation of strong men, they are rare opportunities for the younger generation. Therefore, the top forces in the human world decided to let the younger generations from all parties whose bone age was less than 3,000 years old go and seek these opportunities, which could be considered as some experience. Zhuoxian said in a deep voice, I have said everything that needs to be said. 3 days later, your uncle Gong and the masters of Yunxia Peak, Fengyun Peak and Yunxia Peak will lead all of your disciples who have cultivation above the Xuanhe realm to the Silent Star Sea. Once you enter the Sea of Destruction, everything depends on you. As the holy sons of the Tianxuan Sect, you three must do your best to bring all the disciples of the sect back intact. Upon hearing this, Ye Feng and the other two nodded in response. Uncle Master, rest assured, we will not fail in your mission. Chapter 14, Traitor, I'm Pregnant, Crazy Yun Qingwan. At this time, many righteous forces such as Tianyan Valley, Duanyue Sect, Zixie Palace, Wuliang Temple, etc., were preparing for the journey of the younger generation of disciples to the Silent Star Sea just like Tianxuan Sect. The same is true for the demonic forces such as the Holy Nether Palace, the Sky Poison Sect, the Demon Puppet Palace, the Herwan Sect, and the Blood Moon Hall. In a space shrouded by a terrifying aura of the underworld, a middle-aged man with a few strands of white hair was looking at the chessboard calmly. Opposite him was a strange figure wrapped in a black robe. The space twisted, and a man and a woman slowly walked out of the twisted space. Greetings, Sect Master. The man had a handsome face, but there was a hint of coldness in his eyes. The woman had a charming and beautiful appearance and a graceful figure. The black gauze dress added a bit of charm to her. The cultivation base of the two was not weak either, and at a glance, they had both reached the 4th level of quasi-emperor realm. The middle-aged man still didn't turn his head when he heard the voice, but just made a faint sound. After entering the Silent Star Sea, you must act with caution and not be careless. If you meet Ye Feng from the Tianxuan Sect, try not to conflict with him. The two were slightly surprised when they heard this. No matter how powerful Ye Feng was, they were no pushovers. Although they were dissatisfied, they did not dare to say anything more. All the disciples of the Holy Underworld Temple were extremely respectful towards their leader of the Holy Underworld Sect. Even those strange creatures would be afraid of him when they saw him. We will keep the words of the sect master in mind. The middle-aged man waved his hand slightly, and the two of them understood and left the space. After the two men left, the figure wrapped in the black robe let out a strange chuckle. I guess this Tianxuan Sect disciple named Ye Feng is the sect master's masterpiece, right? The middle-aged man nodded slightly. In the future, he will bring a huge surprise to the world. Tianxuan Sect, Yunxia Peak. After Ye Feng returned to Yunxia Peak, he couldn't wait to tell his master Yun Qingwan about the Silent Star Sea. However, when he finished speaking, he found that Yun Qingwan had a calm face, as if she had already known about this. It turned out that Yun Qingwan had just learned the news through the communication crystal ball. Ye Feng originally wanted to surprise her by going on a mission together, but now it seemed like he was a clown. Seeing Ye Feng's disappointed look, Yun Qingwan couldn't help but chuckle. She decided to give Ye Feng a real surprise. So, she called out softly, "Traitor, come here." Upon hearing this, Ye Feng walked to the lotus platform without hesitation, and then naturally embraced the beautiful figure in his arms. At this moment, Yun Qingwan was like a young woman who had just fallen in love, and was extremely well behaved. She gently stretched out her hand, which was as delicate as white jade, gently took Ye Feng's hand, and placed it carefully on her abdomen. Then she gazed at him lovingly with her beautiful eyes, full of love and expectation. Ye Feng was somewhat bewildered by Yun Qingwan's behavior. He was completely confused and had no idea what she was trying to express. He looked at Yun Qingwan with a puzzled look on his face and asked softly, "Master, what are you doing?" He felt that his master seemed to be acting strange today, but he couldn't tell exactly what was wrong. Yun Qingwan's cheeks flushed slightly, like a ripe apple, and she said coquettishly, "Stupid, I'm pregnant." After saying this, she was as shy as a little girl and buried her head deeply in the rebel's broad and warm arms. When Ye Feng learned the news, his body began to tremble violently as if struck by lightning. His mind went blank in an instant and he was unable to recover for a long time. When he finally came to his senses, he could no longer suppress his inner excitement, and his arms, which were holding the person in his arms, began to tremble slightly. His broad palm rested gently on her abdomen, as if he could feel the little life that was connected to his blood. "Master, you really gave me a huge surprise. From now on, no matter what happens, I will follow your arrangements." Yun Qingwan looked at the traitor's surprised expression and her heart was filled with sweetness. However, when she thought of him always having affairs outside, she felt a little resentful. So, she decided to scare this beloved disciple. She just snorted softly and murmured coquettishly, "You say nice things, but you always deceive master secretly. If you continue to have affairs outside, don't expect this little guy to come out of your belly." Hearing master's words, Ye Feng hurriedly said, "Master, what are you talking about? You are the only one in my heart. With a stunning beauty like you accompanying me, I don't even bother to look at other women." Seeing the traitor trying so hard to please her, Yun Qingwan felt very happy. As for the little girl from Snow Lotus Peak, she did not dwell on this issue. She just needs to keep the traitor's heart firmly with her. There is no need to press him too hard. If you go too far, it will backfire. That's better. I won't bother with that little girl from Snow Lotus Peak. Master doesn't want to see another woman around you," Yun Qingwan said with a slightly blushing face. "Master, rest assured. All I have in my heart is a yearning for immortality." Ye Feng looked at Yun Qingwan affectionately and answered seriously, "Women will only affect the speed of my cultivation." Hearing Ye Feng's words, Yun Qingwan felt touched and relieved at the same time. She knew that although this traitor was very popular with the opposite sex, he was only interested in pursuing the dream of eternal life. And this pursuit is not the kind that requires any means necessary. When it comes to the important people around him, he will not hesitate to sacrifice his life to protect them. And such a man is the one that Yun Qingwan deserves to entrust her life to. So, Yun Qingwan nodded gently to show her understanding and support. Ye Feng smiled slightly, gently stroked Yun Qingwan's face, then leaned over and kissed her forehead. Yun Qingwan closed her eyes, enjoying the warmth and sweetness of the moment. However, at this moment, Yun Qingwan suddenly thought of something, opened her eyes abruptly, and reminded with a ruddy face, "Traitor, be careful of the baby." Ye Feng was stunned for a moment, then he understood what Yun Qingwan meant. He smiled and consoled him, "Don't worry, master. I will be careful, and my chaos body bloodline will be very helpful in improving his talent and aptitude. I will sincerely honor you, master." After saying that, Ye Feng laid Yun Qingwan down and kissed her. Yun Qingwan's face turned red with shame and her heart was trembling. The good disciple was really filial to her master, so much so that she even had a little life in her belly. Not only did she give everything to her beloved disciple, she also volunteered to give birth to a baby for him. Is there anything crazier in this world than a master giving birth to a baby for his obedient disciple? Not only that, she was even bullied by him for kissing him while pregnant. This is crazy. Feeling the passionate kiss from her good disciple, Yun Qingwan shyly responded to Ye Feng and tried hard. In this peaceful and beautiful life, 3 days passed quietly. Chapter 15 Yun Qingwan confesses to Gong Huangwan. On the outskirts of the realm of the Silent Star Sea, countless top forces in the human world gather. After sending those youngsters into the entrance of the Silent Star Sea, the leaders of various forces also looked for a place to stay and waited for the youngsters to come out. In a pavilion outside the Silent Star Sea, Gong Huangwan was discussing important matters with the 3 peak masters. After the 4 of them finished discussing their business, the masters of Yunxia Peak and Yunxia Peak left the room. Only Yun Qingwan and Gong Huangwan were left in the room. At this moment, Yun Qingwan looked hesitant, as if she was hiding something unspeakable in her heart. Finally, she gritted her teeth, as if she had made up her mind. "Senior sister, I have something I want to tell you," Yun Qingwan said softly, with a hint of hesitation in her voice. Hearing Yun Qingwan's words, Gong Huangwan showed a puzzled look on her face. She gently walked forward, took Yun Qingwan's hand, and sat down beside her. "Junior sister, we have been friends for so many years. If you have anything to say, just tell me directly," Gong Huangwan said gently. However, in response to Gong Huangwan's question, Yun Qingwan fell silent again. Her eyes flickered, as if she was experiencing a fierce struggle in her heart. She originally wanted to tell Gong Huangwan, but when she really wanted to say it, she backed out. Gong Huangwan was also a little surprised to see her hesitant look. "Little junior sister, you grew up under my care, is there anything you can't tell me?" Yun Qingwan struggled for a moment after hearing this, but finally decided to tell her senior sister Gong Huangwan. "Senior sister, I'm pregnant." After she finished speaking, a layer of blush appeared on Yun Qingwan's perfect face. At this moment, Yun Qingwan was so ashamed that she wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Gong Huangwan's heart was shocked and she looked at Yun Qingwan in disbelief. She really didn't expect that her junior sister would bring her such explosive news. As a senior sister who watched this little junior sister grow up, Gong Huangwan naturally knew how popular this little junior sister of hers was in the human world. Over the past 30,000 years, countless geniuses from various forces have pursued her. Even some top-notch emperors whose faces remain as young as those of teenagers are drooling over this little junior sister of hers. But no matter how outstanding and handsome the genius was, he would be ruthlessly rejected by this little sister when he expressed his feelings. Sometimes, she even felt that perhaps there was no one in this world who could gain the favor of her junior sister, the most beautiful and unparalleled flower in the world. But today, she suddenly told herself that she was pregnant. After being shocked, Gong Huangwan couldn't wait to know who could pick this high mountain flower from her junior sister and take it home. "Girl, you didn't even tell your senior sister about such an important matter earlier," Gong Huangwan said, gently poking Yun Qingwan's forehead. "Who is it? Could it be Luo Yang from Tianyan Valley?" Yun Qingwan hurriedly shook her head and said, "Senior sister, don't talk nonsense. I don't like him at all. That guy has been chasing you for 30,000 years and is not the one who found you. So who could it be?" Gong Huangwan asked suspiciously. "Okay, stop keeping me in suspense and just tell me," Gong Huangwan urged anxiously. Yun Qingwan really didn't know how to start, but then she thought, she would have to tell her senior sister about this sooner or later. "Anyway, we have come this far, let us give it a try. It's the traitoress." Gong Huangwan was shocked when she heard this. Her rosy lips opened slightly and she was speechless for a long time. After the initial shock, Gong Huangwan quickly recovered. She even stretched out her jade hand and placed it on Yun Qingwan's lower abdomen. "This traitor actually." As she spoke, Gong Huangwan was too embarrassed to speak. You, girl, really spoil him too much. When he comes out, I will definitely. Before Gong Huangwan finished speaking, Yun Qingwan interrupted her. Senior sister, you misunderstood. I took the initiative, but the traitor was forced. Hearing Yun Qingwan say this, Gong Huangwan widened her eyes, her face full of disbelief. She never thought that her junior sister would do such a thing. What? You said you took the initiative? Gong Huangwan asked in a trembling voice. Yun Qingwan nodded and said firmly, yes, senior sister, this is my fault. It has nothing to do with the traitor. Gong Huangwan was so angry that she was shaking all over. She pointed at Yun Qingwan and cursed, you silly girl, how could you do this? Don't you know what kind of situation you will be in by doing this? Yun Qingwan lowered her head, tears glistening in her eyes, and said softly, senior sister, I know that if I do this, I will definitely be criticized by others, but in the past 30 years of getting along with the traitor, I can't forget how good he was to me. I am willing to give everything for him. Gong Huangwan looked at Yun Qingwan's appearance and felt angry and distressed. She sighed and said helplessly, forget it, since it has happened, let's find a way to solve it. I will find a suitable opportunity to tell the head teacher about this matter. Yun Qingwan nodded gratefully and said, thank you, senior sister. I know what to do now. Gong Huangwan gently patted Yun Qingwan's shoulder and comforted her gently, okay, don't be sad. As long as you two truly love each other, nothing else matters. We have had a good relationship as sisters since we were young. Senior sister will definitely help you. Besides, this is not a big deal. Such emotional outbursts between masters and apprentices are not uncommon. If anyone dares to point fingers at the little fairy of our Tianxuan Sect, not to mention me, senior sister, I'm sure that the head teacher will not let him go. When Yun Qingwan heard this, the worry and uneasiness in her heart gradually dissipated. She raised her head and looked at Gong Huangwan, with gratitude flashing in her eyes. Senior sister, thank you, I knew you would help me. Yun Qingwan was so moved that her eyes turned red, tears welled up in her eyes, and there was a hint of coquettishness in her voice. Gong Huangwan smiled and shook her head, saying, silly girl, why are you so polite to senior sister? We are as close as sisters. After saying that, she gently pinched Yun Qingwan's nose. If you had told me this earlier, I would never have let you come here. What if the fetus gets disturbed and the little one in your belly gets hurt? Ye Feng is really something. He seems quite smart on weekdays, but his brain is useless at the critical moment. Upon hearing this, Yun Qingwan spoke out in rebuttal and began to defend the traitor. The rebel told me about this matter, and I insisted on coming here. I was worried about him being here alone. Besides, for mortals like us who call themselves immortals, it takes 3 years for the baby to come out, so it will be fine. Gong Huangwan sighed softly when she saw Yun Qingwan speaking well of Ye Feng all the time. You just think too much about that traitor. Forget it. If you have nothing to do these days, just stay here and don't move around casually. If there is anything, tell the elders and deacons to do it. Don't disturb the fetus. Yun Qingwan nodded obediently. She knew that her senior sister was concerned about her, and she herself didn't want anything to happen to the little one in her belly. Seeing this, Gong Huangwan sighed softly and said nothing more. While Yun Qingwan and the other person were whispering, Ye Feng and other disciples of the Tianxuan Sect finally entered the teleportation channel of the ancient and mysterious ancient ruins in the Silent Star Sea. Chapter 16 Cai Yiting of Zixia Palace lends a helping hand. When the disciples from the 7 peaks of the Tianxuan Sect passed through the teleportation gate of this space together, the teleportation gate was simply unable to teleport such a large number of disciples to the same place at one time. Finally, they were divided into 7 groups and led by the chiefs of each peak and teleported to different places. In this way, when encountering some relics and heritage, there will not be a situation where there are too many people and too little resources to distribute. In the Silent Star Sea realm, space distortions occurred simultaneously in countless different places, and then elite disciples from all forces appeared in this space. Ye Feng, leading hundreds of elite disciples from Yunxia Peak, appeared in a relatively flat plain area. As soon as they landed in this strange space, everyone became nervous and alert, fearing that something strange might happen here at any time. After some investigation and confirming that there was no danger, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Pang Hao, the terrain here is flat and it's also a high ground. Let's rest here tonight. At this time, the sun had already set and it was evening. The most urgent task was to find a place to stay in this unfamiliar space. Pang Hao nodded slightly after hearing this. There is not a single building in this wasteland for miles, so this is the only way. After the two of them discussed it, everyone took out the tents that had been prepared in advance from the storage ring and started to build a place to stay. When Ye Feng and others had built a place to stay and were preparing to rest, they suddenly heard a sound of breaking wind in the distance. Suddenly, dust was rising in the distance. A team of about several hundred women were rushing towards this side. The team was composed entirely of female disciples, and their aura was so strong. The first person Ye Feng thought of was the people from Yunxia Palace. Behind them were two teams chasing them relentlessly, with murderous aura rising from their bodies, and greed and desire in their eyes. Senior Sister Cai, the people from the Tianxuan Sect and the Blood Moon Hall are about to catch up with us. The woman known as Senior Sister Cai is named Cai Yiting, and is one of the chief disciples in the 6 halls of Yunxia Palace. At this time, the woman called Senior Sister Cai looked back with an extremely ugly expression. The Tianxuan Sect and the Blood Moon Hall are both top forces in the demonic world. The Tianxuan Sect pursues the way of harmony and complementarity of yin and yang. In order to gain powerful strength more quickly, the Tianxuan Sect often captures some independent cultivators and mortal women, and uses them to absorb yin and replenish yang, thereby improving its own strength. The Blood Moon Hall uses the method of sucking blood as the main way to increase strength. Not to mention the opposite sex, they will not let go even the same sex or birds and animals. If they only encountered one of their teams, they, the Yunxia Palace, would naturally not be afraid, but the leaders of these two demonic forces were both at the same level as themselves, at the peak of the 3rd level of the quasi-emperor realm. Looking at the two demonic forces, the Blood Moon Hall and the Joyous Union Sect, which were getting closer and closer to her team, Cai Yiting felt a deep despair in her heart. Is there really no way out? Just when Cai Yiting was feeling desperate, a voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Senior Sister, look quickly, there is a group of people in front of us, they seem to be wearing the clothes of Tianxuan Sect. Upon hearing this, Cai Yiting immediately turned around and looked forward. After confirming that it was indeed the Tianxuan Sect's team, a hint of surprise flashed across her beautiful peach blossom eyes. All disciples, speed up. At the same time, Ye Feng and others also quickly came over. That's great, now we are saved. Seeing Ye Feng and others approaching them, many female disciples of Yunxia Palace felt a sense of joy of rebirth after a calamity. The leaders of the Tianxuan Sect and the Blood Moon Hall both looked gloomy when they saw this scene. Damn it, the duck in my mouth flew away. The scarred man in front of the Blood Moon Hall said grimly. The feminine man in white holding a folding fan in front of the Tianxuan Sect smiled evilly. Brother Gui, don't worry. It's better to persuade this Tianxuan Sect team. If they don't know what's good for them, it won't be too late to take action later. Upon hearing this, the man with the scar had no choice but to agree. After all, if a war breaks out directly, both sides will suffer losses. When they encounter other forces at that time, they will inevitably become lambs to be slaughtered. After the disciples of Yunxia Peak led by Ye Feng and the team led by Cai Yiting of Yunxia Palace met up, Cai Yiting naturally revealed an extremely gentle smile. I am Cai Yiting, one of the 6 chief disciples of Yunxia Palace. I wonder if you brothers are disciples of Tianxuan Sect. While speaking, Cai Yiting's eyes fell on Pang Hao. It was obvious that Pang Hao's cultivation was better than the two people in front. However, it was not Pang Hao who gave her the answer. Senior Sister Cai from Yunxia Palace, we are indeed disciples of Tianxuan Sect. I think Senior Sister Cai seems to be in trouble. While Ye Feng was speaking, he also began to look at Cai Yiting. The woman in front of me was wearing a pink dress and transparent white knee-length socks. She had a pretty face and her gentle smile gave people the feeling of a gentle and graceful older sister next door. If I were in the Tianxuan Sect, I would definitely have countless suitors like Senior Sister Mu and Senior Sister Li. Cai Yiting was slightly surprised when she saw that the person who answered was Ye Feng, who was at the 2nd level of quasi-emperor, and Pang Hao on the side also looked like he was led by Ye Feng. However, as the top genius of Yunxia Palace, Cai Yiting quickly came to her senses. The gentle smile of a big sister next door appeared on her pretty face again. My luck was a bit bad. I encountered 2 demonic teams at the same time. If I hadn't met the brothers from Tianxuan Sect, I would have been in great danger today. Senior Sister Cai, my name is Ye Feng, and this is my senior brother Pang Hao from the Yunxia Peak of the Tianxuan Sect. You are Ye Feng, the leader of the three saints of Tianxuan Sect. Cai Yiting and other disciples of Yunxia Palace were all shocked when they heard this. Guaranteed authenticity. After Cai Yiting confirmed it again, her beautiful eyes widened like bells and she was so shocked that she couldn't speak. Rumor has it that Ye Feng, the leader of the holy sons of the Tianxuan Sect, is a chaotic body that is unparalleled throughout the ages. Moreover, at the Tianxuan Sect's Holy Sun ceremony, he used his first-level quasi-emperor realm to overwhelm Bai Xuanyu, who was at the 4th level, and Mu Shuali, who had combat power comparable to the 4th level. The young quasi-emperor Xiao Yihan and the other two became the leaders of the three holy sons of the Tianxuan Sect. What is most shocking is that his bone age is just over 50 years old. If the person in front of them was really Ye Feng, the difficulties they encountered today would be resolved effortlessly. When hundreds of female disciples of Yunxia Palace were judging Ye Feng's credibility, an arrogant voice slowly came from the back of the Yunxia Palace team. Everyone from the Tianxuan Sect, if you leave now, my Tianxuan Sect and the Blood Moon Hall will definitely reward you handsomely in the future. Upon hearing this voice, Cai Yiting and others from Yunxia Palace instantly felt their hearts rise to their throats. Junior brother Yi, the words of the demons must not be trusted. If you leave now, we will be defeated one by one. Cai Yiting was very worried that the young man in front of her would be shaken by the evil man. Moreover, she didn't really believe that the person in front of her was Ye Feng from the Tianxuan Sect. At this time, Ye Feng did not answer Cai Yiting, but responded to the arrogant voice with a chuckle. What if we don't leave? After hearing Ye Feng's voice, their voice was no longer polite. In that case, I, the Gui Fang, will have no choice but to kill you. When Ye Feng heard this, he felt as if he had heard some funny joke. In an instant, his figure arrived in front of the two forces. At the same time, a bone-chilling voice slowly sounded in this space. Have you thought about how to die? Chapter 17, One move to defeat the opponent, leaving no trace of the ghost. Gui Fang was slightly stunned for a moment, and then he burst into laughter. Boy, you are just a mere quasi-emperor of the second heaven, and you dare to speak nonsense here. Since you want to die, I will grant your wish. After saying that, Gui Fang's figure rushed out directly, like a burning meteor, and appeared in front of Ye Feng in an instant. In his hand he held a blood-red scimitar, which exuded a powerful and terrifying aura, as if a ferocious beast was roaring. Upon closer inspection, the scimitar was actually an extremely powerful imperial weapon, called the Sky-Killing Blood Blade, a second-grade imperial weapon. Cai Yiting saw that Gui Fang had directly summoned the imperial weapon, but Ye Feng remained motionless, so she immediately spoke anxiously to remind him, Brother Yi, be careful, the scimitar in Gui Fang's hand is the second-grade imperial weapon, the heaven-slaying Blood Blade. Before Cai Yiting's voice fell completely, the scimitar appeared in front of Ye Feng with a strong wind. The sharp blade flashed with cold light, like the scythe of the god of death, making people shudder. Looking at this scene, Cai Yiting's heart sank, as if a heavy mountain was pressing down on her. She clenched her fists tightly, her palms began to sweat, and her eyes were full of tension and worry. If Ye Feng loses to Gui Fang, the morale of the Tianxuan Sect team will inevitably be affected, and their Yunxia Palace will also be affected. Although she had heard of Ye Feng's amazing battle record, she had never seen it with her own eyes. At this moment, her mood was like a turbulent sea, difficult to calm down. Looking at the young man who remained calm and confident in the face of the murderous ghosts, Cai Yiting could only pray silently in her heart. I hope this so-called leader of the Holy Son of the Tianxuan Sect is really as the rumors say. At the same time, the lovely female disciples of Yunxia Palace were also watching the situation on the field nervously. They also showed worried looks on their faces and were all worried. In comparison, the disciples of Yunxia Peak seemed much more relaxed. They smiled and would comfort the sisters from Yunxia Palace from time to time. Don't worry, our brother Ye Feng is very powerful and will definitely be able to defeat that guy. His words revealed his infinite trust and admiration for Ye Feng. In fact, the Yunxia Peak disciples' worship of Ye Feng has reached an almost fanatical level. Before Ye Feng appeared, Yunxia Peak had always been at the bottom among the 7 peaks. Even their strongest brother Pang Hao was only at the bottom among the 7 peaks. However, everything has changed since Ye Feng appeared. Ye Feng displayed unparalleled strength at the Holy Sun ceremony and eventually succeeded in winning the title of Holy Sun Leader. This achievement not only shocked the entire sect, but also greatly enhanced the status of Yunxia Peak. Nowadays, the sect has begun to allocate more cultivation resources to Yunxia Peak, which is undoubtedly a huge advantage. They all firmly believed that under the leadership of senior brother Ye, their Yunxia Peak would eventually become the strongest peak in the Tianxuan Sect. While everyone was paying attention to the battle, Ye Feng stood firm, looking at the whistling sword light. I saw a dark red light appearing on his palm, and within that light there was a powerful fluctuation of spiritual energy and a hint of the beginning of chaos. When the bloody scimitar fell, everyone saw that the powerful attack from Ye Feng, which was enough to kill a quasi-emperor of the third level in seconds, was directly taken by Ye Feng with his bare hands. The four teams of good and evil were divided into two sides and confronted each other on this vast plain. In the center of the confrontation between the two sides, a man with a ferocious face and murderous aura was frozen in mid-air in a slashing posture. His face was full of fear. The young man in black below held the ghost blade that was slashing down with one hand, with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. A voice full of mockery slowly came out of his mouth. "Since you don't want to choose, let me choose for you." As these words were spoken, Ye Feng's expression became extremely ugly, and a strong sense of uneasiness surged in his heart. He originally thought that if the opponent didn't die, he would be seriously injured after this blow from his sword, but he didn't expect that the opponent could take his attack so easily. At this moment, a cold light flashed in Ye Feng's eyes. He grasped the ghost blade in his hand and pulled it off violently. Seeing this, Ye Feng hurriedly tried to pull back the ghost blade, but found that he could not move at all. "How is this possible? Who are you?" At this moment, Ye Feng suddenly kicked Ye Feng in the abdomen. Ye Feng was caught off guard and kicked flying backwards. Before he fell to the ground, an ancient shadow slowly appeared in the sky. "Foolish thing, go to hell with your doubts. Kang Yin Chen Jian finger." As the ancient shadow pointed his finger, the air flow in this space slowed down. The flying Ye Feng looked at the destructive force that was suppressing him, and immediately steadied himself and used his strongest defensive move. "Brother Zhua, save me." While he was defending himself, his mouth was also not idle. Ye Feng, who had been licking blood on the edge of a knife for years, felt a strong smell of death on the giant finger covered with ancient patterns. He had no doubt that if this giant finger fell on his body, he would be crushed into dust in an instant. Hearing Ye Feng's voice, the handsome and feminine man also hurriedly performed hand seals. Then, a purple skeleton filled with evil aura appeared above him. "My friend, Ye Feng had no intention of offending me. I was just a little reckless. I hope you can show mercy. If friends are willing to stop, we are willing to make compensation." Hearing the feminine man's words, Ye Feng ignored them. When the feminine man saw this, a ferocious look appeared on his face. "In that case, I will come and learn from your superior skills." As soon as the words fell, the purple skeleton filled with evil spirit flew directly into the air and met the ancient giant finger. The moment the two came into contact with each other, the purple skeleton was crushed to pieces by the ancient giant finger in a brutal manner. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the ancient giant finger crashed into the Ye Feng's defense with undiminished power. The Ye Feng's seemingly indestructible defense was dissolved in an instant. Looking at the giant finger at the pupil, Ye Feng finally felt a strong sense of regret and resentment. "Kid, if you kill me, my master, the Blood Demon Emperor and the Blood Moon Hole will not let you go. I will be waiting for you down there, and I will watch you die slowly." Bang! With a loud bang, Ye Feng's body completely turned into a bloody mist, and no trace of him was left. At this moment, heaven and earth were silent. Chapter 18 Ye Feng gains a little fan girl, Cai Yiting wants to cooperate. In the end, Ye Feng helped Ye Feng choose the ugliest way to die. For a moment, everyone looked at the place where the ghost disappeared with confused and helpless eyes. A strong man at the peak of the third level of Quasi-Emperor was eliminated by Ye Feng in just one move, and this was done with the intervention of the feminine man from the Tianxuan Sect. This left everyone shocked and unbelievable. Cai Yiting's heart could not calm down for a long time, because both Ye Feng and Zhui Yinliang from the Tianxuan Sect were not weaker than herself. However, Ye Feng was able to kill Ye Feng so easily despite the combined efforts of the two, which gave her a deeper understanding of Ye Feng's strength. The strength and means displayed by Ye Feng are enough to prove that the rumors are true. With such a horrific method, I'm afraid even our senior sister Sai Miayan, the saint of Zheshire Palace, would find it difficult to do it. A female disciple said in amazement. Senior brother Ye from the Tianxuan Sect is so powerful, another disciple echoed. He is absolutely my ideal type. If I could become the Taoist partner of senior brother Ye, I would be willing to live 100 years less. another female disciple said in a low voice with a blushing face. Hearing the sweet laughter and chattering coming from her junior sisters in the team behind her, who were like young girls in love, Cai Yiting was a little amused. Once again turning her gaze to the young man who exuded sunshine and confidence, Cai Yiting's beautiful eyes were also full of brilliance. This young man not only has a handsome appearance, but also has amazing strength and means. Moreover, he is the legendary Chaos Body, so he must be extremely powerful. Cai Yiting's face turned slightly red unconsciously. Ye Feng performed so well that the disciples of Yunxia Peak felt proud and even stood straighter than usual. Pang Hao, the eldest senior brother from Yunxia Peak, showed off proudly in front of Cai Yiting with a smile on his face. Chief Cai, junior brother Yi, these are all basic operations. You don't have to be surprised. If you explore the depths of the Silent Star Sea with us from Yunxia Peak, you will encounter such things many times. Just get used to it. Cai Yiting was speechless after hearing this. However, she also thought seriously about what Pang Hao said. Exploring the depths of the Sea of Destruction with the Tianxuan Sect team led by Ye Feng might really bring them more surprises and gains. This is a proposal worth considering. If he could travel with Ye Feng and his team from the Tianxuan Sect, he wouldn't have to be too afraid when encountering those demonic forces. But I don't know what the Holy Son of the Tianxuan Sect is thinking. After Gui Fang's fall, Zhui Yinliang changed direction and led the Tianxuan Sect's team to quickly leave the place. And after a brief moment of shock, the Blood Moon whole team began to flee in all directions. Ye Feng did not chase after them because the people from the Tianxuan Sect ran too fast and it would be troublesome to catch up with them. Moreover, the Blood Moon whole team will become a mess after losing the leader of Gui Fang. As long as they encounter a little storm, they will be swallowed up by the people they once offended, and not even a trace will be left. When Ye Feng returned to the team, Cai Yiting greeted him with a smile. She said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, junior brother Yi. We at Yunxia Palace will definitely remember this favor." Ye Feng smiled slightly, waved his hand to indicate that he didn't need to care, and said, "Senior sister Cai, you are too polite. Both our sects are righteous sects, and it is natural for us to help each other." Seeing that Ye Feng helped her but did not ask for anything in return, Cai Yiting's liking for him rose to a higher level. "Junior brother Yi, it's getting late today, and there's nowhere to stay nearby. Could you let my Purple Sky Palace team set up camp on the high ground where you are?" Ye Feng smiled faintly and said, "This is originally an unowned land, so there is naturally no problem with this." Upon hearing this, Cai Yiting hesitated slightly and said, "One more thing. I wonder if our two teams can go together tomorrow." When Ye Feng heard the question asked by Cai Yiting, he also hesitated slightly. After thinking for a moment, he spoke. "Senior sister Cai, if two teams travel together, how should the opportunities and inheritance gained from the exploration be distributed? If it is distributed equally, Ye Feng feels that it would be better for everyone to go their separate ways. For Ye Feng, taking the Yunxia Palace team with him is basically no different from taking a burden with him." Cai Yiting also understood Ye Feng's concerns and immediately expressed her thoughts. "If we encounter an opportunity, we will work together to grab it, and how about distributing it according to contribution? Senior sister Cai from Yunxia Palace is no pushover either." Upon hearing the method given by Cai Yiting, Ye Feng also admired her in his heart. No matter what, with Ye Feng's powerful combat capability, even if the Yunxia Palace team just follows behind to reap the benefits, the chances they will have are definitely greater than if they act alone. After all, if you want to obtain those inheritances and opportunities, you must first defeat the contenders from other righteous sects and those from the evil sects. Not only that, those ancient imperial families with a long history and some forces that are both good and evil are also powerful competitors. Cai Yiting's choice is undoubtedly extremely wise. After a brief thought, Ye Feng smiled and stretched out his right hand. "Then I wish us a happy cooperation." Cai Yiting also slowly stretched out her fair jade hand and held Ye Feng's hand. When night fell, the disciples of Yunxia Peak and the team from Yunxia Palace gathered around the campfire in groups of 3 or 4, chatting and laughing. While chatting and laughing with the disciples from Yunxia Peak, the girls from Yunxia Palace also let out a series of sweet giggles like silver bells. This sound is like the sound of nature, softening the dark night sky. While everyone was chatting and laughing, Cai Yiting also started chatting with Ye Feng. For a young genius like junior brother Yi, there must be many female disciples in the Tianxuan sect who are attracted to you, right? Without waiting for Ye Feng to answer, Pang Hao started bragging. Our junior brother Yi naturally has countless suitors in Tianxuan Sect. Junior sister Li Qianyu, the chief of Yunxia Peak, wants to be junior brother Yi's Taoist partner. Junior sister Mu Shuali from Snow Lotus Peak, who looks like a 1,000-year-old ice lotus, also took the initiative to throw herself into junior brother Yi's arms. There are also some junior sisters who secretly love junior brother Yi. Anyway, there are too many to count. When Ye Feng heard this, his vision suddenly went dark. What senior brother said is biased. Senior sister Cai, please don't believe it. This senior brother always likes to promote his own reputation, but he is too lazy to pay attention to him. Cai Yiting chuckled and expressed her understanding. This made the man couldn't help but feel moved. It was no wonder that she was so popular. Cai Yiting couldn't help but blush as she imagined whether she could withstand the powerful force of Ye Feng's chaotic body if she was with him. After Cai Yiting mentioned this, Ye Feng also thought of senior sister Mu and Master. There is also the baby in Master S belly. I wonder if the little guy is making any noise in there. Let's not think about these anymore. Let's first think about how to seize the greatest opportunity in this sea of annihilation. Ye Feng stood up, looked towards the deepest part of the sea of annihilation and whispered softly. The beauty of the world is not what I desire. To attain eternal life is what my heart desires. Chapter 19 Zhu Sinyu, I must have misunderstood Brother Guanyu. The next morning, Ye Feng and Cai Yiting led the team to explore the depths of the Silent Star Sea together. Although Ye Feng was not very interested in beauty, having a beauty like Cai Yiting by his side made the journey more fun. It was during this exploration that 3 days passed by in a flash. During these 3 days, based on the map of this area 30,000 years ago left by the sect, they explored the remains of 7 sects that were destroyed in that ancient war. During this period, he also gained many skills and elixirs. Among the 7 most important sects, there is a sect called the Ancient Palace of Stars. The strongest master, the Star Emperor, reached the level of Emperor Netherworld during his lifetime. After a battle of wills, the master of the Ancient Star Palace passed on his inheritance to Ye Feng. After 7 days of digestion, Ye Feng also refined the inheritance left by the Star Emperor and the origin of his great way. Ye Feng's cultivation level also skyrocketed to the peak of the 2nd level of Quasi-Emperor in just half a month. Cai Yiting had no complaints about Ye Feng monopolizing the inheritance of the Star Emperor. Because when fighting for the inheritance of the Star Emperor, Ye Feng single-handedly fended off 3 contenders who were half a step to the 4th level of the Quasi-Emperor. This gave their team the opportunity to enjoy these inheritances. Moreover, the origin of the great Tao left by Ye Feng, a powerful late-stage Emperor Illumination Realm expert under the Star Emperor, was directly assigned to her to refine alone. Cai Yiting had been at the peak of the 3rd level of Quasi-Emperor for many years. After refining the essence of the great Tao, she successfully broke through to the 4th level of Quasi-Emperor. If she had not refined the essence of these great ways, it would probably take her another 2 or 3 years to break through to the 4th level of Quasi-Emperor. Therefore, not only did Cai Yiting not feel dissatisfied, but she was full of gratitude. Ye Feng also distributed those elixirs, spiritual weapons and other treasures in a ratio of 6:4 between Yunxia Peak and Yunxia Palace. In this regard, the female disciples of Yunxia Palace were also full of gratitude to Ye Feng like Cai Yiting. You know, along the way, their Yunxia Palace has hardly made any contribution, and has always been following behind and enjoying the ready-made benefits. For the opportunity to distribute the Ancient Star Palace this time, they thought they would be satisfied with 30% of the profits, but they did not expect that senior brother Yi, the holy son of Tianxuan Sect, would be so generous and directly gave them as much as 40%. For a time, Ye Feng not only gained many little fans, but also many young girls who were just beginning to fall in love secretly fell in love with him. The disciples of Yunxia Peak had no objection to Ye Feng's assignment, because in their hearts, this senior brother Yi had already become a belief-like existence. At this time, Ye Feng slowly walked to Cai Yiting and congratulated her softly. Congratulations, senior sister Cai, for breaking through to the middle stage of Quasi-Emperor. Cai Yiting slightly turned sideways, gently lifted a strand of hair hanging down beside her cheek, and smiled gently. I have to thank junior brother Yi for this. If it weren't for junior brother Yi, I'm afraid I wouldn't have had this opportunity. At this moment, she was extremely grateful that she had listened to Pan Hao's advice half a month ago and chose to join Ye Feng's team. Cai Yiting is a beauty with the temperament of a big sister next door. The pink dress and the graceful figure made her look extremely gentle and graceful. The transparent over-the-knee white socks wrapped around the calves give people a pure and lively fairy-like feeling. Coupled with the gentle smile on her beautiful face, Cai Yiting instantly became the focus of countless eyes in the area. Facing such a Cai Yiting, Ye Feng couldn't help but make a joke. Senior sister Cai, a verbal thank you doesn't seem to be sincere enough. Cai Yiting felt a little embarrassed when she heard this. She understood that Ye Feng was deliberately teasing her. Since you tease me like this, I'll give you a big blow. Junior brother Yi, you have been so kind to me. I have no way to repay you, so I can only pledge my love to you. I hope that junior brother Yi will not despise me. Ye Feng felt overwhelmed. This Cai Yiting, knowing that he was no longer single, still flirted with him like this. What a seductress. Har har, senior sister Cai, I was just joking, don't take it seriously. Upon hearing this, Cai Yiting shook her head with some regret. That's such a pity. I thought junior brother Yi was interested in me, but it turned out to be just wishful thinking on my part. Ye Feng smiled awkwardly and quickly found an excuse to leave Cai Yiting's sight. If I continue to tangle with this witch like this, my master will break my legs if he hears about it. If his master got miscarriage because of this, Ye Feng would never forgive himself. When Cai Yiting saw Ye Feng running away in shame, she gently raised her hand to cover her lips and chuckled. This junior brother Yi is really cute. It's just that he seems to already have a Taoist partner, which is a bit of a pity. After some rest, Ye Feng led the two teams to continue exploring the depths of the lonely starry sea. At this time, in a space in the realm of the Silent Star Sea, a team with extraordinary momentum was advancing towards the depths just like Ye Feng and others. At the head of the team stood a beautiful woman with a graceful figure and elegant temperament, which was eye-catching. The woman was wearing a red and white silk long skirt, and the hem of the skirt fluttered in the wind, like a fairy descending to the earth. Her legs are long and straight, with well-proportioned curves, exuding charming charm. Her skin is as white as snow and bright, as if emitting a faint light. The most attractive thing is her pair of mysterious eyes, which are as crystal clear, deep, and charming as ancient stars. Her eyebrows are picturesque and slightly raised, giving people a sharp feeling. The beautiful girl's cheeks have a standard oval face shape, and her facial features are exquisite and beautiful, making people unforgettable at first sight. The red wrinkle between her eyebrows is like a shining pearl, adding a unique charm to her. This woman is Zhu Xinyu, the princess of the Zhu clan, one of the 5 ancient imperial clans. However, observing from a distance, one could see that she did not look happy, as if she had some worries or troubles hidden in her heart. Miss, don't be sad. I believe there must be some misunderstanding. In Brother Guanyu's heart, you must be the most important. The girl beside Zhu Xinyu whispered to comfort her. Her tone revealed her concern and worry for Zhu Xinyu. After hearing the comfort from the girl next to her, Zhu Xinyu's mood did not improve, but instead she felt even more aggrieved. On her beautiful face, she opened her red lips slightly and said with a hint of stubbornness, Xiao Qian, please stop talking. He actually attacked me for that witch from the Holy Nether Palace. He is no longer the Brother Guanyu I knew. After saying this, tears welled up in Zhu Xin유's bright eyes, and tears welled up in her eye sockets, as if they could fall at any time. She bit her lips tightly, trying hard not to let tears fall, but she couldn't hide the pain in her heart. She and Zhu Guanyu have known each other since childhood and have a deep affection for each other. They were all gifted people, and when their bone age was 1,000 years old, they were both named the emperor's son and daughter of the Zhu imperial family. Since she was a child, Zhu Guanyu has always treated her as a treasure and taken good care of her. However, just now, her brother Guanyu got furious with her because of a witch from the Holy Nether Palace. He even beat her and accused her of being unreasonable. All this made Zhu Xinyu feel extremely confused and disappointed. She really couldn't understand why her brother Guanyu treated her like this. Miss, the cultivation level of that witch is unfathomable. She must have used some means to threaten brother Guanyu, so he is so ruthless to you. Xiao Qian said angrily. Yes, it must be that evil woman's doing. I may have misunderstood brother Guanyu. Xiao Qian, let's turn back. Zhu Xinyu was extremely anxious and felt extremely guilty that she should not have doubted her brother Guanyu so easily. Just when Zhu Xinyu was about to turn around, 2 teams from the Tianxuan Sect suddenly appeared in this space. Chapter 20 Zhu Xinyu is disappointed again, Emperor Lei Ji of Lei Ji Palace. I haven't seen such a pretty girl for a long time. Today I, Han Shu, am lucky. As this voice fell, the two teams of the He Sect surrounded Zhu Sinyu's team. One of the two leaders was Zhui Yinliang, whom Ye Feng and others had met. Seeing that the people coming were from the He Sect, Zhu Sinyu felt nauseous. You evil thieves from the He Sect dare to touch even the people of my Zhu imperial clan. You really think your life is too long. Zhu Sinyu has such a wild personality. Zhui Yinliang was very excited when he saw this. Brother Han, this girl is really wild. It must be a great sense of accomplishment to tame her. Han Shu nodded with a lewd look on his face and said, this kind of wild and unruly little wildcat can excite me more. Hearing the two people's dirty words, Zhu Xin's face became extremely ugly. You two demons from the He Sect, I will tear you into pieces. Har har, you have no chance. I want to see how wild and untamable you little wildcat are. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Shu's fourth-level quasi-emperor cultivation was poured out without reservation. Just as Han Shu was about to take action, an extremely charming voice slowly sounded in this space. Brother Han, can you please give me a favor by selling the holy underworld palace to me for today's matter? As their voice fell, a man in a white robe and a woman in a black gauze skirt landed beside Zhu Sinyu. The man was Zhu Guanyu, and the woman was Ling Maiyao, the holy maiden of the holy underworld palace. At the same time, the two teams also rushed over from a distance. Seeing that the person coming was Ling Maiyao, Han Shu also restrained his breath. It turned out to be Fairy Ling, the saintess of the holy Nether Palace. Since Fairy Ling has spoken, our He Sect will naturally give her this face. Although he and Ling Maiyao were both at the fourth level of quasi-emperor, he knew very well in his heart that he was absolutely no match for this witch from the holy Nether Palace. Don't be fooled by the fact that Ling Meiyao's every frown and smile is extremely charming. If a fight really breaks out, even the holy son of their He Sect will be defeated. Sinyu, are you okay? After the situation stabilized, Zhu Guanyu walked directly to Zhu Sinyu's side. Zhu Sinyu shook her head and said, I'm fine. Brother Guanyu, these demons from the He Sect and the Xingming Palace are not good people. Let's get out of here. Ling Maiyao twisted her waist and walked slowly towards her, and said in an extremely charming voice, Little sister, don't say anything careless, we are good people. Zhu Sinyu immediately retorted, It's ridiculous that you demons are good people. At this time, Zhu Guanyu said with a gloomy face, Sinyu, don't be unreasonable. Miss Ling and I are just partners. Zhu Guanyu was fascinated by Ling Maiyao when he saw her, but he didn't want to give up his childhood sweetheart Zhu Sinyu. However, in order to please Ling Maiyao, he could only show his goodwill to Ling Maiyao first. Moreover, the Holy Underworld Palace is the strongest sect among the demonic forces. If Zhu Guanyu can get help from the Holy Underworld Palace, he will surely return with a full load on this trip to the Silent Star Sea. As for Zhu Sinyu, Zhu Guanyu is confident that he can easily control this childhood sweetheart who grew up with him. Seeing Zhu Guanyu treating her coldly for another woman again, Zhu Sinyu was extremely disappointed. Brother Guanyu, I thought it was this witch who was causing trouble, but I didn't expect you to be such a person. For this witch, you actually treated me harshly twice in one day. Okay, I'll leave now and never bother you again. Sinyu. Zhu Guanyu wanted to explain, but Zhu Sinyu did not give him a chance. He turned around and left the space with his team. Looking at Zhu Sinyu leaving, Zhu Guanyu was not too concerned. He thought that after returning, he would explain everything carefully, and the two would surely be able to reconcile as before. I'm sorry to make you laugh, Fairy Ling. My cousin always likes to throw tantrums like this. Ling Maiyao smiled charmingly and said, It's okay, Master Zhu, let's go to the ruins mentioned in the intelligence first. There is the inheritance of the Emperor Shen realm strongman there. It will be troublesome if others get there first. Zhu Guanyu heard this and said cheerfully, Fairy Ling is right. Opportunity is still important. Moreover, with the participation of the two members of the He Sect, I believe that this opportunity will definitely fall into our hands. Zhu Guanyu spoke in a friendly manner, and was not at all angry because of what Han Shu and Zhui Yinliang had just done to Zhu Sinyu. In his dictionary, all grudges can be temporarily put aside in the face of common interests. Han Shu laughed and said, Har har, brother Zhu is so generous. If we work together, we will definitely be able to seize the opportunity. As the three parties reached an agreement, the four teams slowly disappeared into this space. Ye Feng and the others advanced for another day towards the depths of the Sea of Nirvana. On their way, when they passed a busy focal point, they also got the news about the inheritance of the powerful Emperor Xian realm in this area. The relic was called Leiji Palace, and the inheritor was the great Emperor Leiji, who was famous in the Silent Star Sea 30,000 years ago. His actual strength has even reached the terrifying Emperor Profound realm, and is in the late Emperor Profound realm. What is strange is that this rare opportunity seems to be known to everyone. Junior brother Yi, it seems that someone deliberately spread the news, hoping that more people would compete for the inheritance of the Emperor Xian realm powerhouse. Ye Feng nodded slightly and said, "In that case, let's go and join in the fun." Cai Yiting jokingly said, "If you go, will anyone else be able to get this opportunity?" Ye Feng retorted, "Now those who can come here are the top geniuses of various forces. Senior sister Cai must not underestimate the enemy. But if they meet me, it would be their bad luck." Seeing how thick-skinned Ye Feng was, Cai Yiting smiled. "Sister Cai." Just as the two were chatting, a voice interrupted them. Cai Yiting looked at it carefully, her face full of surprise. "Sinyu, why are you here?" Zhu Sinyu brought the team to Cai Yiting and others. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Ye Feng standing beside him. Suddenly, she was stunned. How can there be such a handsome man in this world? Her eyes widened, full of shock. Zhu Sinyu was originally a girl obsessed with love. She couldn't walk when she saw a handsome guy. Now, when she saw a handsome and elegant young man like Ye Feng, she was stunned. Seeing Zhu Sinyu's love affair come back, Cai Yiting shook her head helplessly and hurriedly woke her up. "Ahem, Sinyu, this is Ye Feng, the leader of the Holy Sons of the Tianxuan Sect." Cai Yiting turned to Ye Feng and said, "Junior brother Yi, this is my good friend, Zhu Sinyu, the daughter of the Zhu clan, one of the 5 great clans." It turned out that Cai Yiting had saved Zhu Sinyu once when she was on a mission near the Zhu imperial family's forces. After some greetings, Zhu Sinyu also told about his experience after entering the Silent Star Sea. After listening to Zhu Sinyu's experience, Ye Feng began to think for a moment. It seems that the saint of the Holy Nether Palace, the Prince Zhu Guanyu of the Zhu imperial clan, and the 2 teams of the Tianxuan Sect have formed an alliance. This opportunity left by a powerful Emperor Xian realm expert is a little hard to get. However, it is still unclear who the Holy Underworld Palace is allied with. Ye Feng gently sensed the black token that he had hidden in the Tianxuan Sect for 30 years. The words of the Lord of the Holy Underworld Palace reappeared in his mind. When disciples of the Holy Underworld Palace see this token, it is as if they have seen the Palace Master in person. Chapter 21 Zhu Sinyu falls in love with the little leek Zhu Guanyu. In the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. In a tent of the team, Ye Feng's body was surrounded by rich spiritual energy, and his aura continued to rise, as if it was about to break through the sky. In an instant, his cultivation successfully broke through the bottleneck of the 2nd level of Quasi-Emperor and entered the realm of the 3rd level of Quasi-Emperor. Ye Feng slowly opened his eyes, a look of satisfaction in his eyes. He had anticipated this breakthrough. After all, he absorbed the essence of the great Tao that the Star Emperor had condensed throughout his life. If he couldn't even break through a small realm in the early stage of the Quasi-Emperor, it would be too unsatisfactory. The last time he broke through to the peak of the 2nd level of Quasi-Emperor, he actually only consumed a part of the inherited power of the Star Emperor. And this breakthrough was barely enough to exhaust the inherited power. However, for Ye Feng, the greatest gain was not the improvement of his realm, but the deepening of his understanding of the Great Tao through the comprehension of the origin of those Great Taos. This kind of perception is the most precious, because it is related to the strength of his future ability after he becomes an emperor. If his understanding of the Tao is deep enough when he attains the Emperor realm, after attaining the Tao, he will be able to fight against enemies of higher levels just like he did in the Quasi-Emperor realm. It seems that I need to accumulate more insights into the Great Tao before I can attain enlightenment. While Ye Feng was sighing to himself, Cai Yiting and Zhu Sinyu also came over. Cai Yiting was speechless about Ye Feng's breakthrough speed. "You are too abnormal, it has only been a short time and you have made another breakthrough." When powerful spiritual power fluctuations were generated around and thunder roared in the sky, Cai Yiting had a vague premonition that this matter must be related to Ye Feng. After seeing his training speed and comparing it to her own, Cai Yiting felt that they were most likely not of the same species. Ye Feng was not at all humble in response to Cai Yiting's joke. There are inherent differences in everyone's cultivation. And I have also received the inheritance of the Star Emperor. If I still can't improve faster, it would be very abnormal. Upon hearing this, Cai Yiting couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Although Ye Feng's words were sharp and harsh, they revealed a cruel fact. In this vast world, every life has huge differences when it is born. This difference is not only reflected in the living environment, status and identity, but also in personal talents and abilities. These innate factors are usually called fate or destiny. However, Ye Feng never believed in the so-called destiny. If destiny tried to restrain him, he would not hesitate to use the powerful force in his hands to burn this destiny to ashes. At this time, Cai Yiting suddenly remembered something. We still have 1 day to go, and we will be able to reach the ruins of the sect of Leiji Palace. Hearing Cai Yiting's reminder, Ye Feng nodded slightly to show that he understood, and turned to look at Zhu Xinyu beside him. Miss Xinyu, if your brother wants to compete with us for this rare opportunity, I will never show mercy. If you plan to help him, then I hope you can leave here now. Ye Feng's words were like a thunderclap, hitting Zhu Xinyu's heart hard and making her body tremble. She hurriedly shook her head and said, Master Yi, don't worry. No matter what, I am also the daughter of the Zhu family. I will definitely not do such a treacherous thing. We will never do anything that would damage the reputation of the Zhu family by associating ourselves with the forces of the devil. Ye Feng exclaimed, if your brother could be as sensible as Miss Xinyu, I wouldn't have to force a peerless beauty like Miss Xinyu to make such a difficult choice. As soon as Ye Feng finished speaking, Zhu Xinyu also heard that Ye Feng was praising her beauty, and Zhu Xinyu's pretty face immediately turned rosy. Ever since Zhu Guanyu made Ling Maiyao sad twice in 1 day, she felt as if she didn't know the boy who grew up with her as a childhood sweetheart. Just when she was feeling empty, this extremely handsome Mr. Yi, whose talent and strength surpassed all the geniuses of the time, appeared in her life. It just so happened that Zhu Xinyu was a face control freak, and in addition, during the past half month of getting along, Ye Feng had always been very caring towards her and had helped her teach a lesson to passers-by who harassed her many times along the way. No matter how powerful the opponent was, he was able to easily defeat him. Adding all these things together, she felt as if she had fallen in half a month. The reason why Ye Feng did this was not because he liked Zhu Xinyu so much. Although she is good-looking, she is still inferior to Master and Senior Sister Mu. The reason why Ye Feng did this was that he learned the story of Zhu Guanyu from Zhu Xinyu. He had mediocre talent for 700 years, but when his bone age reached 1,000 years old, he became the most dazzling dark horse of the Zhu imperial family and won the position of Emperor's son. There is also a childhood sweetheart, the princess of the emperor, who is in love with him. Isn't he definitely the man of destiny? After Zhu Xinyu finished telling the story of Zhu Guanyu, Ye Feng realized that the first leek he was going to harvest on the road to eternal life had already appeared. I'm grateful to Master Yi for taking care of me along the way. If Master Yi doesn't mind, you can call me Xinyu? Ye Feng hesitated slightly, but also agreed. Since you said so, Xinyu, I will respectfully obey your command. Zhu Xinyu nodded slightly, held Cai Yiting's arm, and did not dare to look at Ye Feng. Seeing the suddenly changed atmosphere, Cai Yiting smiled faintly and said, Are you two ignoring my existence? Zhu Xinyu gently shook Cai Yiting's arm and said coquettishly, Sister Cai. Okay, I won't tease you, little girl. Cai Yiting knew a little about Ye Feng's affairs, but after all, it was someone else's emotional issue, so she couldn't comment on it casually. Besides, Ye Feng is now her support and backup for obtaining opportunities. If she is kicked out by Ye Feng because of her nonsense, wouldn't that be a big loss? Finally, the two women introduced to Ye Feng in detail the situations of the top geniuses from various forces who were about to participate in the fight for the inheritance of great Emperor Lei Ji, and then quietly left the room. When leaving, Zhu Xinyu looked back reluctantly, until Cai Yiting kept urging her, she left reluctantly. Zhu Guanyu, I wonder what kind of surprise this little leak of yours will bring me. Ye Feng raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing an expectant smile. Ling Maiyao from the Holy Underworld Palace, Han Shu from the Tianxuan Sect, and Luo Qianhao, the nephew of Luo Yang from the Tianyin Valley, should not be bad either. Ye Feng understood that although he had improved a small realm in just 1 month, there must be many people like him who had achieved improvement through these inheritances. After all, in this vast realm of the Silent Star Sea, there must be more than one inheritance of the Emperor Yu realm powerhouses. But he was not afraid. Because he knew that these so-called geniuses were just the darlings of fate, while he was the one who wanted to break free from the shackles of destiny. Ye Feng took a deep breath, and a hint of determination flashed in his eyes. He never felt that he was inferior to those chosen by destiny. On the contrary, those so-called children of destiny were not worth mentioning in his eyes. I will let everyone know that true strength does not rely on destiny. The so-called destiny is nothing but a joke. At this moment, Ye Feng's eyes were extremely bright. The invincible Dao heart is finally forged at this moment. Chapter 22 Ling Maiyao becomes interested in Ye Feng, and all parties gather together. In a magnificent building with an air of dilapidation, there were countless monks standing outside, looking at the majestic buildings and world ahead. At the entrance of the palace, the three large characters, Leiji Palace, clearly stimulated everyone's visual nerves. These three big characters represent not only a force, but also a peak powerhouse in the Emperor Xian realm, Emperor Leiji. All forces looked at the light shield at the entrance of Leiji Palace with worried expressions. I thought I would be able to grab the opportunity first if I came early, but I didn't expect there would be another seal. Who says it's not? This seal is extremely strong. Just now, 7 quasi-emperors of the 5th heaven and dozens of 4th heaven experts attacked together but still failed to break it. Let us wait a little longer. If more forces come and the geniuses from all sides attack together and we still can't break it, we can only give up. While various forces were whispering, Ling Maiyao, Zhu Guanyu and others were sitting in a pavilion with extremely ugly expressions. Among the 7 5th-level quasi-emperor warriors who those forces mentioned working together to break the seal, 2 of them were Ling Maiyao and Zhu Guanyu. After half a month of traveling, they also gained considerable fortune along their way. Both of them successfully broke through to the 5th level of quasi-emperor realm. At this time, although the aura of Hanshu of the Tianxuan Sect was slightly weak, he still reached the realm of half a step to the 5th level. Hanshu sat aside with a gloomy face and a hint of unwillingness in his eyes. He murmured to himself, I never thought that even though Emperor Leiji has been dead for 30,000 years, the seal he set up is still so indestructible. Zhu Guanyu's eyes sank slightly, and he said, just now, 4 teams including the Yunxia Peak of Tianxuan Sect, the Ye Feng Palace of Chenyan Valley, and the Puhui monk of Wuliang Temple have arrived here. Hearing this, Hanshu frowned and became secretly worried. At this moment, a very charming voice came, it's okay, the Sky Poison Sect and the Blood Moon Hall also have teams in this area. With this opportunity, they will surely arrive soon. The sound was like the sound of nature, refreshing and also a little itchy. Hanshu couldn't help but look up, his eyes unconsciously cast on the woman in the black gauze dress Ling Maiyao. She has a graceful figure with curvy curves that are very attractive. Ling Meiyao's long black hair fell from her shoulders, her nose was straight and her eyebrows were picturesque, and there was a hint of charm on her beautiful face. Especially those big watery eyes, which seem to be able to capture people's souls. This extremely charming lady is filled with an irresistible charm in every frown and smile. It seems that if I don't pay attention, she will hook my soul away and I won't be able to extricate myself. Hanshu's eyes would glance at Ling Maiyao from time to time, his heart filled with the desire to get this woman. If it weren't for the fact that this witch was so powerful that even he couldn't handle her, with Hanshu's usual style, he would have probably taken her down long ago. Not only Hanshu, but many men around couldn't help but look at Ling Maiyao. There is indeed no one in this area who can surpass her in beauty. Even if Li Qianyu from the Tianxuan Sect stood in front of her, some of her light would be obscured by her. Ling Maiyao was wearing a black gauze dress. She had a graceful figure, her delicate hands gently stroking her hair, and her eyes sparkling with charming light. Her every frown and smile exudes an irresistible charm, like a bewitching witch. Ling Maiyao did not try to stop those presumptuous gazes. On the contrary, she very much enjoyed the feeling of being watched and pursued. She knew that her beauty was a weapon that could drive men crazy and even do anything to get her. And she likes to see these men fall at her feet and become her playthings. However, this does not mean that Ling Maiyao is a casual woman. If anyone dares to say those obscene words to her or tries to flirt with her, then that person will deeply experience the methods of the saint of the demonic sect. She would strike without hesitation and make the other party pay a heavy price. Because her beauty is not meant to be insulted. At this moment, Ling Maiyao seemed to remember something. She licked her red lips gently, and a charming smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. I heard that the holy son of the Tianxuan Sect mentioned by the palace master seems to be in this area. I wonder if this guy that the palace master specifically told me not to mess with is different from other men. I'm really looking forward to it. When the city in front of the ruins of Leiji Palace fell into chaos, Ye Feng and his party also arrived here. Just after Ye Feng and others entered the city, a voice spread from the city gate. Are you the boy from Tianxuan Sect who killed Ye Feng? I finally waited for you. As their voice sounded, countless rays of twilight around followed the gaze of the owner of their voice and fell on Ye Feng. The man who spoke was tall and strong, with a ferocious face, and his arms were covered with all kinds of strange patterns. This person is none other than the holy son of the Blood Moon Hall, Yunxia. Beside him are the leader of the Blood Moon Hall team who is at the peak of the 4th level of Quasi-Emperor, as well as allies from the 10,000 Poison Sect and the Demon Puppet Palace. The leaders of the two teams of Wan Du Men also reached the 5th level of Quasi-Emperor, just like the Blood Moon Hall. Although the Demon Puppet Palace only has one team, no one dares to underestimate it. Because every disciple of the Demon Puppet Palace uses his own essence and blood to raise a natal demon puppet made from a living person. That natal demon puppet was also able to practice independently, and the chief disciple at the front of the Demon Puppet Palace team had surprisingly reached the 5th level of Quasi-Emperor realm. The demon puppet he raises must not be simple either. Facing such a luxurious lineup on the opposite side, Ye Feng took 2 steps forward expressionlessly, and then revealed a smile. Yes, it was me who killed Ye Feng. Upon hearing this, Yunxia frowned slightly. He didn't expect that Ye Feng, a mere quasi-emperor of the 3rd level, would be so arrogant in front of him. At this moment, he had a bad feeling in his heart. You are so arrogant. I wonder which peak of the Tianxuan Sect you are the chief of. Ye Feng said calmly, Yunxia Peak. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Yunxia Peak, is he Ye Feng, the leader of the Holy Sons of the Tianxuan Sect who defeated by Xuanyu, who was at the 4th level of the Quasi-Emperor realm, at the 1st level of the Quasi-Emperor realm? I really didn't expect to meet him here. Tianxuan Sect is the #1 righteous sect in the human world and a holy place longed for by countless righteous people. Now, the trial of the Silent Star Sea has just been going on for a month, and the leader of the Tianxuan Sect, the first righteous sect in the human world, has appeared before them. The name Ye Feng was too familiar to them. At the pinnacle meeting of Tianxuan Sect, Ye Feng defeated by Xuanyu, who was at the 4th level of Quasi-Emperor, with his cultivation level of the 1st level of Quasi-Emperor, and became the leader of the Holy Sons of Tianxuan Sect. This incident left a deep impression on many people and made him an idol in the eyes of many people. And today, Ye Feng actually appeared here, which undoubtedly made everyone excited and thrilled. Not only that, he actually fought against the Holy Son of the demonic Blood Moon Hall. This was really exciting. Everyone was secretly amazed. At this time, countless forces in the city gathered here, and they all turned their attention to Ye Feng and Yunxia. At this time, when Li Qianyu saw Ye Feng, she also quickly gathered with her team. What Ye Feng didn't expect was that after just a short period of time, her realm had actually reached the 5th level of Quasi-Emperor. Li Qianyu stood beside Ye Feng with her delicate body, her beautiful eyes fixed on Yunxia, and she shouted, Yunxia, you are really capable of attacking the Holy Son of the Tianxuan Sect. Li Qianyu's words were like a stone thrown into a lake, causing a commotion among the crowd around. However, at this moment, a charming voice suddenly came. Har har, I didn't expect that the small town in front of the Leiji Palace ruins would be so lively today. My Xingming Palace has come to join in the fun. As their voice fell, a group of figures in black robes appeared in front of everyone. The woman in the lead was graceful and charming. She was none other than Ling Maiyao, the holy maiden of the Holy Underworld Palace. Then, another arrogant voice sounded, how can our Tianxuan Sect be left out of this matter? With the joining of demonic forces such as the Holy Underworld Palace and the Tianxuan Sect, Ye Feng and others instantly fell into a disadvantage. At this moment, Ling Mei's charming eyes were staring at Ye Feng deeply. Even she, who always regarded men as playthings, couldn't help but feel a little admiration in her heart. What a handsome little brother. It's a pity that the palace master has told us not to mess with him. I just wonder if he will take the initiative to provoke me. If you take the initiative, then sister will accept you. Looking at the many colleagues from the demonic forces around him, Yunxia became a little bolder. Even if you are the Holy Son of Tianxuan Sect, you will have to pay the price for hurting my people from Shueyue Hall. Yunxia's voice echoed in the air, carrying with it endless murderous intent. His eyes were fixed on Ye Feng, as if he wanted to eat him alive. However, at this moment, 2 voices sounded in this space. How dare you, evil demon, be so presumptuous? Their voice was full of majesty and righteousness, as if it came from a god above the 9 heavens. Amitabha, I see that you have a strong desire to kill. I hope you can put down your butcher knife and become a Buddha right now. The other voice was full of compassion and mercy, which made people feel respect. When everyone looked carefully, they saw that the people coming were Luo Qinhao from Tianyan Valley and Monk Puhui from Wuliang Temple. One of them was wearing a golden robe, exuding a sense of righteousness. The other was wearing a cassock, holding Buddhist beads, with a look of compassion on his face. Beside Luo Qinhao, there was a man in white whose aura had reached the half-step 5th level. His eyes were cold, as if he was indifferent to everything in the world, but they revealed a heart-pounding fluctuation. Har har, I, Duan Yuzong, am here to join in the fun. As soon as he finished speaking, a burly man led a team and appeared beside Ye Feng and others. At this moment, the 5 major super sects of the righteous path in the human world and the 5 major super sects of the evil path have all gathered here. The relationship between these sects is complex, with both cooperation and competition. At this moment, their eyes were all focused on Ye Feng, as if waiting for his response. Those countless small sects that remained neutral and those major clan forces with ancient heritage all opened their eyes wide, not daring to miss any details. Could it be that the final battle between the younger generations of righteousness and evil will begin here during their journey to the Sea of Annihilation? Such questions arose in everyone's mind, and the atmosphere in the field reached its peak at this moment. Chapter 23 Ling Maiyao and Ye Feng cooperate. Zhu Guanyu is heartbroken. In this tense atmosphere that was on the verge of breaking out, Ling Maiyao spoke again. Her voice was clear and pleasant, but it carried an unquestionable majesty. Everyone, please listen to me. Now is not the best time to start this war. Why don't we each make concessions? Is that okay? Hearing these words, everyone from both the righteous and evil sides couldn't help but feel moved. Indeed, the most important thing at this moment is to obtain the inheritance of Emperor Lei Ji. As for the hatred between Tianxuan Sect and Shueyue Hall, it is actually not important to them. What's more, there are many ancient clans with long traditions and other neutral sects around, watching this place covetously. If the two sides go to war at this time, these bystanders will undoubtedly benefit. Ye Feng looked at Ling Maiyao deeply, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. From the extremely charming aura she exuded, he immediately guessed that this woman should be the legendary saint of the Holy Underworld Temple. He couldn't help but secretly sigh that with such an alluring and charming posture, the name of the charming fairy was indeed well deserved. Then, Ye Feng cast a meaningful look at Ling Maiyao, and then said with a smile, "Since the saint of the Holy Nether Palace has proposed this, then my Tianxuan sect will naturally give this face. After all, the lord of the Holy Temple of your sect also came from my Tianxuan sect. Besides, maybe someone from the strange clan has already sneaked into this space. If we both lose in the fight, it would be a good thing for them." Ling Maiyao covered her lips with her jade hand and chuckled, "As expected of you, you are the leader of the holy sons of the Tianxuan sect. I admire your character." She looked at Ye Feng with her beautiful eyes, and said softly, "I heard that Ye Xingzi is only in his 50s, he is really young." Ling Maiyao raised the corners of her mouth slightly, revealing a charming smile, and then said, "Sister, I am an old monster who has lived for thousands of years. If little brother does not despise you, we can cooperate after the inheritance of Emperor Lei Ji is opened. If there is a chance, we can have a private chat after this matter is over." As soon as Ling Maiyao finished speaking, an uproar broke out in the venue. Fairy Ling from the Holy Nether Palace actually took the initiative to invite Saint Yi from the Tianxuan sect to work together. The two strongest forces of the righteous and the evil are working together. This is truly a rare news in the world. Someone whispered in surprise. "You don't know this, right? The master of the Holy Underworld Palace used to be the most talented disciple under the ancestor Tianxian. After the ancient calamity of heaven and earth ended 30,000 years ago, the master of the Holy Underworld Palace rebelled against the Tianxian sect and founded the Holy Underworld Palace." Another person explained. "So, the strongest forces of the righteous and evil paths have the same origin." What? The strongest forces of good and evil are actually from the same source. This is too unbelievable. Yes, in this way, the boundary between good and evil seems to become blurred. Then how should we view the good and evil sides in the future? Do we have to redefine the distinction between good and evil? Everyone was whispering, and in an instant, the feud between the Tianxian sect and the Xingming Palace spread throughout the entire city where they settled. How ironic is it that the two strongest forces in the human world, good and evil, actually have the same origin? Most ordinary people did not pay much attention to these. What they paid attention to was that the stunningly beautiful and charming fairy Ling Maiyao from the Holy Underworld Palace actually took the initiative to invite a man to cooperate. Ling Meiyao's appearance is extremely beautiful, and her charming and seductive manner in every frown and smile makes countless people of the opposite sex present unable to take their eyes off her. Now, the goddess in his heart actually took the initiative to invite other men to cooperate with him and even chatted with him alone. Countless people heard the sound of their broken hearts. Zhu Guanyu, who was standing with the demons, had a gloomy expression on his face. He closed his eyes tightly, and slowly felt the mysterious page of the atlas in his body. Since he obtained this atlas 300 years ago, he has been guided by the old man in the atlas and has embarked on a road to counterattack. From then on, his life went smoothly and he never encountered any major difficulties. However, at this moment, Zhu Guanyu's heart was filled with anger and jealousy. He had finally persuaded Ling Maiyao to cooperate with him, but he didn't expect that she would accept Ye Feng's invitation so easily. Moreover, when he saw Ling Maiyao for the first time, he was attracted by her beauty and regarded her as his woman. Now, Ling Maiyao not only took the initiative to invite Ye Feng, but also proposed to have a private talk with him. How could Zhu Guanyu accept this? What made him even more unbearable was Zhu Xinyu standing next to Ye Feng. She is my childhood sweetheart who has grown up with me, and there is a deep affection between us. Although Zhu Guanyu once slapped Zhu Xinyu because of Ling Maiyao and made her angry and leave twice, he still cared about her deep in his heart. However, after only half a month of not seeing each other, Zhu Xinyu's eyes had completely lost sight of him, and instead she was paying attention to other men. All this made Zhu Guanyu extremely angry. He felt like two green hats suddenly appeared on his head, and they were bought from the same place. In the past 300 years, Zhu Guanyu had never suffered such a great humiliation. "Mr. Tu, I'm going to kill this kid," Zhu Guanyu said, gritting his teeth. "Little guy, don't be impulsive. This young man is not simple. You'd better not act rashly. It won't be too late to cause trouble for him after you get the inheritance of Emperor Lei Ji." Old Tu hurriedly dissuaded. There was a flash of unwillingness in Zhu Guanyu's eyes, but he finally suppressed the anger in his heart and controlled his mood with a gloomy face. At this moment, Li Qianyu, who had been silent all the time, suddenly took a step forward and stood in front of Ye Feng. "Ling Maiyao, don't try to play any tricks. Junior brother Yi won't be fooled by a witch like you," Li Qianyu said coldly. Li Qianyu was not worried about fighting with others, because she had already experienced Ye Feng's strength at the Holy Sun ceremony. But now this evil witch was actually using her beauty to seduce, which made Li Qianyu feel a little worried. Although she was full of confidence in Ye Feng's willpower, the enchantress in front of her was so alluring that even a woman like her would be moved when she saw her, let alone a man. So she had to worry whether Ye Feng would be bewitched by this witch. Besides, Li Qianyu has not yet obtained the original power of junior brother Yi's chaotic body, so how could this witch have the chance to get it? Cai Yiting and Zhu Xinyu on the side also hoped that Ye Feng would reject Ling Meiyao's invitation. Although the two of them had no special relationship with Ye Feng, they both realized along their way that they were somewhat moved. Ye Feng, who was protected by Li Qianyu, did not pay attention to everyone's thoughts, but kept paying attention to Zhu Guanyu. Seeing his extremely gloomy face, Ye Feng was also very relieved. He decided to add fuel to the fire and give Zhu Guanyu, the loser, some motivation to work hard. "Since Fairy Ling has taken the initiative to invite me, it would be a bit ungrateful if I still refuse. It is my honor to be able to work with Fairy Ling." When Ling Maiyao heard Ye Feng agree, a hint of surprise flashed across her pretty face, but soon she began to chuckle happily. "Little brother, you are such a straightforward person. I have heard that the leader of the Holy Sons of Tianxuan is a chaos body and his combat power is extremely strong. If you encounter danger inside, you must protect your sister well. Don't worry, Fairy Ling Yi will definitely not let you down." Ling Maiyao giggled and said, "Sister, I really didn't make a mistake about you." Ling Maiyao appeared to be in a pleasant mood on the surface, but she was a little disappointed in her heart. It seemed that this guy who the palace master had instructed not to provoke was nothing special. Ye Feng smiled faintly and didn't say much. Everything he did was to inspire Zhu Guanyu's fighting spirit. As for protection, after showing the token to Ling Maiyao will naturally recognize her own position and know who should protect whom. The various forces of both good and evil were not surprised to see this scene. This world is one where profit is paramount, and the so-called right path is just a nicer sounding label. In this world, there is no absolute justice or evil, only different positions and interests. Everyone has their own goals and motivations, and no one can be truly selfless. Who knows what the so-called righteous path has done behind the unknown stories? They may sacrifice the lives of others in order to maintain their own status and interests. In pursuit of greater power, they may resort to deceiving and harming others. These so-called righteous people are actually not much nobler than those who follow the evil path. At least the people on the evil path do evil things openly, and the so-called righteous people are just using this as a cover to seek benefits for themselves. They are good at disguising themselves and covering up their evil deeds with the cloak of justice. They know how to use tactics and pressure to convince people that what they are doing is right. But in fact, everything they did was just to satisfy their own selfish desires. Perhaps there really are such pure and genuine messengers of justice in this world, but how many righteous people in the world are like that? Everyone understood this truth clearly, so no one from other righteous forces blamed Ye Feng for his behavior. Because they know that in this world, interests are the most important. If he can bring them benefits, then he is their ally. If not, then he is their enemy. The world is bustling with people, all for profit. The world is in turmoil, all for the sake of profit. This is the truth of this world. As long as you don't get involved with those strange tribes that want to exterminate this world, everything is within the tolerance limit of this world. When facing those strange creatures from outside the plane, everyone in this plane, whether they are from the righteous path, the evil path, or those who are neutral, must unite. Because these strange creatures are the common enemies of all creatures in this plane. In the end, with Ling Meiyao's mediation, Yang Xiao gave up the idea of maintaining the face of the Blood Moon Hall. Judging from those rumors, if he insisted on his own ideas, he would probably end up like Ye Feng. After this matter was over, everyone came to the seal of the entrance to Leiji Palace again. For example, the forces that came here have doubled in number than before. Even though Emperor Leiji was a powerful emperor in the profound emperor realm, he had already fallen 30,000 years ago. Moreover, this seal has been eroded for 30,000 years. Everyone believed that this time they would be able to break the seal and open up the relics and heritage of the Leiji sect. Chapter 24: Breaking the Seal and Inspiring Zhu Guanyu's Fighting Spirit. Ling Meiyao looked around, her beautiful eyes moving, and said softly, "I believe you all know how powerful this sealing shield is." She paused for a moment, then continued, "Everyone is here for the inheritance, so I hope you can work together." Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. One of them echoed, "Fairy Ling is right. Only if we work together can we have a chance to obtain the inheritance in the ruins." "That's right, Fairy Ling has spoken, we will definitely go all out and will not hold back." Har har, everyone knows that there are all kinds of precious elixirs and powerful imperial weapons hidden in here, how can we not be tempted? Although everyone present showed a positive attitude, in fact, everyone knew in their hearts that when it came to actually breaking the seal, everyone would definitely hold back. After all, no one wants to reveal their cards at this time, so as not to be calculated by others. Therefore, the apparent unity is just an illusion, and in reality everyone has their own ulterior motives. After all parties expressed their opinions, Ling Meiyao nodded with satisfaction, then turned to look at the others and said softly, "Since everyone is ready, let's get started." After she finished speaking, countless purple petals formed by spiritual energy rose up around her body. These petals sparkled with crystal light, like a dream. Then, Ling Meiyao raised her jade hand lightly, and the petals flew like rockets, with a fierce momentum, covering the seal at the entrance of Leiji Palace. In an instant, the entire space was occupied by purple petals, which collided with the sealing light shield, making a deafening roar. At the moment when Ling Meiyao made her move, Ye Feng, Li Qianyu, Yang Xiao and others mobilized the powerful spiritual power in their bodies without any hesitation, and displayed their strongest magical powers to blast towards the seal. Boom! Powerful attacks hit the seal like cannonballs, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Under the impact of this terrifying energy, countless ripples appeared on the surface of the seal, as if it could break at any time. At the point of collision, even the space could not withstand such tremendous pressure, and countless cracks were directly created. At this moment, everyone was staring straight ahead, only to see that the sealing light shield had obviously dimmed in color under such tremendous pressure, but there was still no sign of cracking. Yang Xiao from the Blood Moon Hall couldn't help but curse under his breath, "How can this damn seal be so strong?" Just when everyone felt helpless, a red blade flashed across the sky like lightning and slashed fiercely on the sealing light shield. In an instant, everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. They stared with wide eyes and looked at everything happening in front of them in astonishment. The scarlet blade fell on the ceiling light shield like a meteor, instantly embedding itself into it and spreading countless tiny cracks around it. Afterwards, everyone was surprised to find that Zhu Guanyu, who was standing at the back of the team, was standing steadily in the air in a posture of throwing light blades. Feeling that everyone's eyes were focused on him, Zhu Guanyu was secretly delighted. He has always enjoyed the feeling of being the center of attention. However, after just one look at him, everyone turned their attention back to the seal, with ecstatic expressions on their faces. Luo Qianhao of Tianyin Valley shouted, "Everyone, increase the intensity of releasing spiritual power. The seal will be broken soon." As he finished speaking, everyone mobilized all their spiritual power and rushed towards the seal. Immediately, the spiritual pressure that the seal was subjected to became much stronger. The light above the seal was also dimming little by little. At this moment, Ye Feng, who had been silent all the time, suddenly moved. I saw the aura surging around him, and a powerful momentum burst out from him. Then, he put his two fingers together and pointed out the sword in a very casual manner. Suddenly, a sword beam several feet in size hit the seal. This martial art is called Flowing Cloud Finger, and it was taught to him by his master himself. Although it is not an imperial martial art, it is also very powerful. Under the attack of this finger, the light on the seal dimmed instantly, as if it would break at any time. At this time, several other people also felt the power of this finger. They couldn't help but look at each other and marveled in their hearts. Since everyone had already consumed most of the power of the seal, under the cover of Ye Feng's finger, the small cracks on the seal spread at a speed visible to the naked eye. Crack! Finally, with the combined efforts of everyone, the seal could no longer withstand such tremendous pressure and exploded directly. With a roar, the seal broke into countless pieces and dissipated in the air. Brother Ye Feng's strength is really shocking. It was a wise choice for my sister to choose to cooperate with you this time. Ling Maiyao stared at Ye Feng with charming eyes and joked softly. Many forces around were also praising Ye Feng for his extraordinary strength. Zhu Xinyu, who was standing next to Ye Feng, was wearing a long white dress. She was graceful and her big eyes were full of Ye Feng. Although Zhu Guanyu also put in a lot of effort to break the seal this time, he obviously used an extraordinary powerful imperial magical power. Moreover, such a huge effect was achieved only after everyone had consumed most of the power of the seal. Although Ye Feng made his move when the sealing power was almost gone, everyone could see that Ye Feng was just pointing his finger casually. This finger may seem simple, but the power contained in it makes everyone feel frightened. Ye Feng's strength has far exceeded their imagination. In comparison, the height of the two can be distinguished at a glance. In response to everyone's praise, Ye Feng just smiled faintly and said, "It's all thanks to you all. I just finished the tail end." Hearing Ye Feng say this, those forces all showed expressions of appreciation, and their favorable impression of Ye Feng increased a little more. As expected of the holy son of the Tianxuan Sect, he is not only powerful, but also humble. He is truly admirable. Yet, in comparison, the guy just now seems a bit unbearable. He was just taking advantage of the situation and achieved a little bit of results, and then he acted like he was the protagonist. That's right, this is the kind of person I hate the most. While speaking, these people also turned their eyes to Zhu Guanyu. Zhu Xinyu heard all of this. She sighed inwardly, "I never thought that Brother Guanyu would become like this." While expressing her feelings, the way she addressed Zhu Guanyu also changed unconsciously. At this moment, Zhu Guanyu was undoubtedly in great pain. He saw the very friendly attitude of the woman he liked, Ling Maiyao, towards Ye Feng, and the look of his childhood sweetheart, Zhu Xinyu, whose eyes were full of Ye Feng and the disappointment in her eyes when she looked at him. These images kept circling in his mind, making him feel extremely painful and desperate. Why? Why is it like this? Zhu Guanyu murmured to himself, feeling unwilling. Zhu Guanyu made such a great contribution but still could not get recognition, while Ye Feng just made a small contribution and became the focus of the whole audience and was praised by everyone. All of this was unacceptable to him. "Ye Feng, I must kill you," Zhu Guanyu said, gritting his teeth, with a fierce light flashing in his eyes. However, Ye Feng did not care about Zhu Guanyu's hostility. In his eyes, Zhu Guanyu was just a leek that was about to be harvested. At this moment, he was focusing on the entrance of Leiji Palace. As the entrance opened, the scene suddenly became chaotic. Many forces rushed to the entrance, vying to get in. Faced with such a chaotic situation, Ye Feng did not panic, but remained calm and vigilant. At the same time, Ling Maiyao also decisively broke away from the alliance with Tianxuan Sect and Zhu Guanyu, and led her team to Ye Feng. It is obvious that Ling Maiyao thinks Ye Feng is stronger and more useful. After all, in this world, only interests are the most reliable indicator. Just when Ye Feng and others were about to step into the Leiji Palace, Zhu Guanyu suddenly appeared in front of everyone and walked straight to Zhu Xinyu. "Xinyu, you'd better go in with our Zhu imperial family's team, so that I can better protect you," Zhu Guanyu said with concern. However, Zhu Xinyu just shook his head gently and replied in a very firm tone, "No need, Brother Guanyu. I feel very safe with Brother Ye Feng. He will take good care of me." After saying that, she turned around without hesitation and followed Ye Feng and the others closely as they flew towards the entrance of Leiji Palace. Watching Ye Feng and his group walking away, the anger in Zhu Guanyu's heart was ignited again and burned fiercely. At this time, Ye Feng, who had already entered the ruins of Leiji Palace, raised the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a faint smile. "Zhu Guanyu, you must work hard to become a thriving leek, and don't let me down." Chapter 25 Ling Maiyao offers a kiss, strange creatures reappear. At this time, in the ruins of Leiji Palace, there was a strong sense of oppression and a strange aura emanating from everywhere. Although Emperor Leiji and many powerful men in the Leiji Palace had died 30,000 years ago, their strength during their lifetime was too powerful. Therefore, their power has not completely dissipated between this world. The reason for their demise was that a strange clan invaded this area. After a great battle, those strange forces were left here forever. The strange aura emanating from here was left behind by the strange clan from 30,000 years ago. After entering this space, Ye Feng and others were extremely careful, as they never knew when some strange creature would suddenly appear in front of them. In this solemn atmosphere, Ye Feng and others came to a vast hall. The area around this hall was filled with rare spiritual herbs and medicines. Ye Feng, Ling Maiyao and others discussed it and decided to leave most of the ordinary disciples here to pick these spiritual herbs. They entered the hall with the remaining elite disciples. They were not worried about the safety of the disciples outside. As they were an alliance of 5 teams, they thought no one would be foolish enough to come and provoke them. After entering their hall, everyone followed the open passage to another hall deeper in their hall. As soon as they entered here, everyone was attracted by the dazzling array of treasures. There are too many treasures here. There are actually quasi-imperial weapons, and even real imperial weapons. Ye Feng, Ling Maiyao, Li Qianyu, Cai Yiting, and Zhu Xinyu looked at each other and said, "It seems that this should be a palace of the 10 Hall Masters under the command of Emperor Leiji. I just don't know which Hall Master he is. Why don't we go in and take a look?" While Ye Feng was hesitating, Ling Maiyao had already continued walking forward along the passage. Seeing this, Ye Feng and the other 3 followed. As soon as Ye Feng entered the hall, a strange scene happened. "Junior brother Yi!" Li Qianyu shouted. After Ling Maiyao and Ye Feng, who were walking in front, entered the gate suddenly closed strangely, trapping the 2 inside. Seeing this, Li Qianyu, Cai Yiting and Zhu Xinyu became very anxious and used their respective magical powers to try to blast open the closed door. However, no matter how hard they tried, the door did not move at all, as if it had merged with the entire palace and showed no signs of being shaken. "What should I do? Brother Ye Feng is still in there." Zhu Xinyu's face was full of anxiety, her eyes were slightly red, and tears were welling up in her eyes, as if they would fall at any time. She was extremely anxious because she had not had the time to confess her feelings to Ye Feng, and now Ye Feng was trapped inside, his life or death uncertain. Cai Yiting, who was standing by, saw Zhu Xinyu so sad, and held her hand distressedly, and comforted her softly. "Xinyu, don't worry, junior brother Yi is blessed with a good life, and he will be fine." Cai Yiting looked exceptionally beautiful in her white transparent over-the-knee socks, but the worry on her face was also evident at this moment, which made people feel pity for her. Looking at the expressions of Zhu Xinyu and Cai Yiting, Li Qianyu couldn't help but feel confused. Who is from the same sect as Ye Feng? Why do these outer disciples seem to care more about Ye Feng's safety than himself? She sighed secretly and said helplessly, "Don't worry, with junior brother Yi's strength, there shouldn't be any danger. Let's just wait patiently." Although she was comforting the 2 girls in this way, she was also filled with worry and anxiety deep down in her heart. After all, Ye Feng is now trapped in this mysterious palace, and it is hard to predict whether good or bad will happen. Like Cai Yiting and Li Qianyu, she also cares for Ye Feng very much, even more so. When Li Qianyu and 3 others left, Ye Feng and Ling Maiyao, who were trapped in the hole, immediately became alert. They pressed together back to back and looked around cautiously. In this weird atmosphere, Ling Maiyao, the enchanting fairy of the devil path, blushed slightly. She had never been so close to any man in all these years. Even though they were only back to back, Ling Maiyao could still feel her body temperature gradually rising. He, what a perfect match you are. I never thought that 30,000 years later, I would still be able to see living people like you full of life here. I guess you are not from the Leiji Palace. Suddenly, a cold and strange voice sounded in the hall. Then, a black-robed figure emitting demonic energy appeared in the hall. The figure's appearance and body shape were exactly the same as those of a human, but his bare arms were covered in all kinds of strange patterns. These lines flashed with a strange black light, making the whole person look extremely hideous and terrifying. The most frightening thing is that the powerful fluctuations emanating from him are comparable to those of a strong man at the 9th level of the quasi-emperor realm. Ye Feng and Ling Meiya's expressions changed, and a hint of solemnity flashed in their eyes. I guess you are the so-called strange creature, right? Ye Feng asked in a low voice. After hearing this, the black-robed figure let out a sinister laugh. Har har, yes, I can sense that your physique is very special. It should be the legendary chaos body. As long as I devour you, my cultivation will be able to quickly recover to the emperor realm. By then, this space will no longer be able to trap me. Har 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 har. The man in black robe did not give Ye Feng and the other man any chance to react. He suddenly attacked, and a powerful force came to suppress them. Faced with this sudden attack, Ye Feng and Ling Maiyao did not dare to be negligent at all and hurriedly took measures to defend themselves. The two of them tried their best to resist the attack. Seeing that his attack was blocked by Ye Feng and the other man, the man in black robe was somewhat surprised. Back then, the first whole master of the Thunder Extreme Palace was at the peak of the Emperor Illumination Realm, just like me. He tried his best but could only seal me here. Although I have fallen to the peak of the 9th level of the Quasi-Emperor Realm, it is quite remarkable that you two were able to work together to block my attack. Ye Feng and Ling Maiyao were at the 3rd and 5th levels of the Quasi-Emperor Realm respectively. It was beyond the black-robed man's expectation that they could block this attack. Feeling that her spiritual power was being consumed madly, a trace of despair appeared on Ling Meiya's beautiful face. She knew very well that even if she and Ye Feng were combined, they would not be able to compete with the powerful enemy before them. However, Ye Feng is completely different. He possesses a special physique, the chaotic body, which is an existence that defies the heavens. When the world was first created, all things originated from chaos. In other words, Ye Feng's body is the origin of heaven and earth, like a black hole that can automatically devour the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. As long as heaven and earth exist, his power will be endless and inexhaustible. Just when he had exhausted his spiritual power, the spiritual power between heaven and earth surged towards him like a tide and instantly filled his body. In an instant, Ye Feng's aura reached its peak again and became even more powerful. Seeing this scene, the man in black robe immediately became excited, as expected of a chaos body. Such a perverted ability is truly amazing. Once I devour you, this invincible power will belong to me. By then, recovery to the peak will be just around the corner. I can even take a peek at the realms of Emperor Yu, Emperor Xian, and even the Heavenly Emperor. The black-robed man said excitedly, with an excitement that could not be concealed in his voice. Seeing the man in black robe lose his composure like this, Ling Maiyao couldn't help but feel shocked. She had never thought that Ye Feng's chaotic body was so terrifying that it could make the man in black robe lose his composure like this. However, she couldn't help but feel regretful. Although Ye Feng had amazing talent, he hadn't grown up yet and was going to perish here with her. Even the most amazing genius, if he does not have enough time to grow, can only become a speck of dust in the long history of this vast plain. When she thought about her impending death, a hint of sadness appeared in Ling Meiya's eyes. She knew that no matter how they struggled, they were doomed to destruction. At this moment, Ling Maiyao suddenly made an unexpected move. She stood on tiptoe as if possessed by a ghost and gently kissed Ye Feng's handsome face. Bang! A crisp sound echoed in the air, as if breaking the solemn atmosphere of death. Ye Feng felt the warm touch on his cheek and was a little overwhelmed for a moment. He looked at Ling Maiyao in confusion, totally not understanding why she would behave like this. Ling Maiyao, at this moment, you are still obsessed with men. Although I am handsome and excellent, you should also respect this strange creature opposite you. Hearing this, Ling Maiyao blinked her charming eyes slightly and sneered, this fairy is about to fall, and I haven't touched a man yet. I don't want to leave any regrets. After hearing Ling Meiyao's explanation, Ye Feng was speechless for a moment. Seeing that the two men did not take him seriously at all, the man in black robe instantly became furious. Wait until I eat you, then you can go into my body to make up for the regrets you left behind. The black-robed man's voice became sinister, filled with murderous intent and greed. As the black-robed man finished speaking, he raised his arm slightly, and a destructive black light shot towards the two of them again. This black light was like black lightning, carrying the aura of destroying everything and making people feel endless fear. Looking at the black light that was shooting towards him, Ye Feng took a deep breath. His eyes became firm and cold, and he knew in his heart that facing such a powerful attack, it would be difficult to resist with his spiritual power alone. However, there was not a trace of panic in Ye Feng's eyes, but instead a strong fighting spirit surged up. Because he knew that this was not the Tianxuan Sect, but the Leiji Palace, and it was not necessary to use spiritual power to defeat the enemy here. Maybe some other force could do the trick. Ye Feng quietly felt the strange power in his body, and his expression suddenly turned cold. Since I cannot defeat you with my spiritual power, I will let you feel what the strongest and strange power is. Chapter 26. This is an order, Ling Maiyao calls the master. As the strange black light suppressed Ye Feng and the others, the black-robed man's face was filled with madness. Soon, he will recover the strength of the Emperor Illumination Realm, although it is still a little worse than his peak period. But after he refines the boy with the chaotic body, his potential will become enormous. However, things were not as good as he imagined. When the attack he launched dissipated, Ye Feng and the other man were not seriously injured as he had imagined, but were standing there intact. This made his eyes widen. Not only that, the aura of that kid with the chaotic physique has actually reached the 9th level of Quasi-Emperor. No, this is not spiritual power, this is the strange power of my race. How is this possible? The man in black robe couldn't imagine how a human boy could possess such a powerful and strange power and still have his mind intact. Is it because of the chaotic constitution? Ling Maiyao beside Ye Feng was also staring at him in amazement, her charming eyes filled with shock. Her mouth was slightly open, but she could not utter a word. She could only talk to herself silently in her heart. It turns out that this guy is the same person as the palace master. Apart from the master of their holy nether temple, Ye Feng was the second person she had ever seen who possessed strange powers without having his mind corrupted. Feeling this powerful force, a hint of satisfaction flashed across Ye Feng's eyes. Back then, the strange power that the old man from the holy underworld palace instilled into his body was not weak. Over the past 30 years, as his spiritual power level increased, that strange power grew more crazily, constantly counterattacking in an attempt to erode his mind. The power that this strange race needs to constantly practice and absorb spiritual energy to obtain will grow on its own in the creatures of this plane. It just corrodes people's minds and turns them into zombies. Ye Feng's chaotic physique, which originated from the beginning of chaos, is immune to the erosion of this strange power. Moreover, Ye Feng can use his own chaotic origin to make his spiritual power and strange power become extremely domineering. Facing the black-robed man who was also a quasi-emperor of the 9th level with strange power, Ye Feng had an amusement look on his face. I'm so sorry, it seems the positions of hunter and prey have changed. Ye Feng grabbed in the air, and the strange power of chaos instantly swept towards the man in black robe. Feeling that terrifying aura, the man in black robe hurriedly took action to resist. However, everything was in vain. The black-robed man's defenses began to crumble, and the demonic energy around him became illusory. The strange power released by Ye Feng instantly penetrated the body of the man in black robe, and his eyes were full of unwillingness. I won't give up. I'm just one step away. Bang! With a loud bang, the black-robed man's body instantly turned into rolling demonic energy, floating in the hall. It's not that easy to leave. Ye Feng grabbed the black gas with a trace of spiritual fluctuations in the air again, and crushed it to explode. At this point, a strange creature who had fallen to the peak of the 9th level of the Quasi-Emperor realm, was completely killed by Ye Feng in one move. Looking at the decisive and fierce young man in front of her, Ling Maiyao couldn't help but feel fear. Who is the evil force and who is the strange creature? Ye Feng put away his strange power and restored his spiritual power to the third level of quasi-emperor. His eyes were fixed on Ling Maiyao. Seeing Ye Feng's gaze, Ling Maiyao felt a little uncomfortable. Are you going to kill me? If he leaked the fact that Ye Feng possessed strange powers, he would definitely be pointed at and criticized by everyone. By then, even the Tianxuan Sect probably won't let him go. Hearing Ling Meiyao's words, Ye Feng did not answer, but chuckled and took out a black token. I believe you won't leak this matter. If you do, the lord of your holy underworld palace will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Seeing the pattern and lines on the black token in Ye Feng's hand, Ling Maiyao, the charming fairy of the holy underworld palace, could no longer hold back. How come you have the holy temple order of my holy underworld temple? She felt that she, the saint of the holy underworld temple, and the holy son of the holy underworld temple who enjoyed the same status as herself might be fake. This kind of thing that neither of them nor many high-level officials in the palace are qualified to possess actually appeared in Ye Feng's hands. Only the master of their holy underworld temple is qualified to issue the temple order. Seeing the temple order is like seeing the master. Seeing the surprise in Ling Meiyao's eyes, Ye Feng raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a faint smile. He slowly stretched out his hand, gently pinched Ling Meiyao's delicate chin, and said softly, with your whole master's strength, I should not have the ability to snatch things from him, right? Ling Maiyao widened her eyes and looked at Ye Feng in disbelief. She was finding it increasingly difficult to understand the young man in front of her. Ye Feng changed the subject and his tone became serious. Although I am not from your holy nether palace, I hope that at the last critical moment, you can lend me a helping hand and help me seize the greatest opportunity in this sea of annihilation. There was an unquestionable determination in his eyes. This is not a discussion, but an order. Ye Feng raised his tone, emphasizing his determination. At the same time, he raised the mysterious token in his hand, as if showing his power and status to Ling Maiyao. Ling Meiyao's face turned pale, and she felt the oppression in Ye Feng's words. Faced with this situation, she had no choice but to comply with Ye Feng's request. I know how to make the decision. I am willing to help you. This is also a form of self-salvation for me. Ling Maiyao gritted her teeth and made a decision. Hearing Ling Meiyao's answer, Ye Feng nodded with satisfaction. He loosened his hand that was pinching Ling Meiyao's chin, and a confident and calm smile appeared on his face again. After you get out, try to treat me the same way as before. Don't be too reserved to avoid unnecessary trouble. Seeing Ye Feng regain his original composure, Ling Meiyao's fear was mostly dissipated. Her demeanor gradually returned to normal and her eyes were no longer filled with fear. Instead, she showed her usual alluring and seductive attitude. Ling Maiyao bit her lips gently, her eyes flashing with charm. When she thought of how frightened she was just now by Ye Feng, who was less than 100 years old, a trace of resentment welled up in her heart. Ling Maiyao pretended to be pitiful and said in a tender voice, You scared me just now. I am traumatized. She gently twisted her slender waist, showing off her charm and trying to attract Ye Feng's attention. However, Ye Feng was not affected by her charm. He just smiled awkwardly and explained, It's all forced by the situation. I hope Sister Ling can understand. Seeing that Ye Feng had become exactly the same as before, Ling Maiyao heaved a sigh of relief and became bolder. So she took 2 steps forward and came in front of Ye Feng. Ling Maiyao raised her head slightly, and her beautiful eyes gazed at Ye Feng affectionately, with a charming light flashing in her eyes. Under Ye Feng's shocked gaze, Ling Maiyao stretched out her arms and wrapped them around his neck, then gently placed her lips next to his ear. Her movements were gentle and graceful, like a docile kitten, exuding endless charm. Then, she whispered in an extremely charming voice, Yes, my master. The voice was full of temptation, like a warm current flowing into Ye Feng's ears, causing his body to tremble involuntarily. Ye Feng shuddered all over and couldn't help but sigh, as expected of the famous fairy of the demonic path, Sister, you are really a fairy. Hearing Ye Feng's words, Ling Maiyao smiled slightly, with a hint of pride in her eyes. She gently stroked Ye Feng's face and said in a charming voice, He, does brother Ye Feng like me like this? Seeing Ye Feng's embarrassed look, Ling Maiyao smiled with satisfaction. Afterwards, the two of them discovered a trace of wool left by the first hall master of Leiji Hall deep in their hall, and divided up his inheritance and the origin of the great Tao. Ling Maiyao was also extremely happy that Ye Feng was willing to share this precious inheritance with her. Sure enough, Ling Maiyao was not wrong about the person. Cooperating with Ye Feng was undoubtedly the most correct choice she had ever made. Chapter 27 Zhu Sinyu's hostility towards Ling Maiyao. Ye Feng misses his master baby. After Ye Feng refined the inheritance of the first whole master, 5 days passed quietly. During these 5 days, Ye Feng has been working hard to digest the inheritance of the first whole master, and his strength has been constantly improving. As the last bit of inherited power was refined, Ye Feng opened his eyes and revealed a look of satisfaction. At this moment, he has completely mastered the inheritance of the first whole master of Leiji Palace. His strength has greatly increased, and he is only half a step away from the 4th level of Quasi-Emperor. Although Ling Meiya's strength did not improve as much as Ye Feng's, she also gained a lot. As the successor of the first whole master of Leiji Palace, Ye Feng naturally became the master of this hall. He easily opened the tightly closed door and successfully escaped from the predicament. Junior brother Yi, you finally got out. If you had been trapped in there all the time, we wouldn't know what to do. When Ye Feng walked out of their hall, the 3 women who had been waiting outside the door all showed surprise on their faces, especially Li Qianyu, who was the first to express her concern for Ye Feng. Although Cai Yiting and Zhu Xinyu did not speak, their nervous expressions showed that they were not at peace during the time that Ye Feng was trapped. Feeling the worry in the eyes of the 3 women, Ye Feng felt a warm current in his heart. But he knew that now was not the time to talk about this, as there were greater opportunities waiting for him ahead. Senior Sister Li, what's the situation outside? Ye Feng asked calmly. Li Qianyu took a deep breath, calmed down, and said, all the treasures here have been divided up among our 5 teams. We can leave here at any time. In that case, let's leave here first. Ye Feng suggested. Everyone had no objection to Ye Feng's words, so they quickly left their hall and headed towards the main hall of Leiji Hall. Brother Ye Feng, what trapped you in there? The pretty Zhu Xinyu blinked her big eyes and stared at Ye Feng with curiosity, just like a curious baby. Hearing Zhu Xinyu's question, everyone looked at Ye Feng curiously. It was obvious that they also wanted to know what had happened in the first Hall Master's Hall. Ye Feng's face was calm, and he answered in a steady tone, we encountered a strange creature in Lemian whose strength had fallen to the peak of the Quasi-Emperor realm. Thanks to the timely intervention of the first Hall Master, Miss Ling and I were able to escape unscathed. Then, Ye Feng began to describe the scene at that time in vivid detail. After hearing this, everyone couldn't help but feel frightened. Although they did not experience it personally, they could still feel the suffocating sense of crisis from Ye Feng's description. Ling Maiyao on the side listened quietly to Ye Feng's story, trying hard not to laugh out loud. However, Zhu Xinyu noticed the smile that was hard to conceal on Ling Meiyao's face. You witch! Zhu Xinyu widened her eyes and glared at Ling Maiyao. Brother Ye Feng gave you all the inheritance of the first Hall Master, and you dared to make fun of him. There was anger and dissatisfaction in her voice. She didn't care about the fact that this evil woman seduced her childhood sweetheart Zhu Guanyu. Such an unfaithful man was not worthy of her, Zhu Xinyu's nostalgia. Now this witch is trying to seduce her elder brother Ye Feng again. Zhu Xinyu feels that this witch from the holy underworld palace seems to be deliberately making things difficult for her. Ling Maiyao twisted her slender waist slightly and said solemnly, little sister, don't say anything careless. Where did you see me making fun of brother Ye Feng? When everyone saw Ling Maiyao with a serious face, they all felt that Zhu Xinyu was making things up. Even Cai Yiting did not stand up to speak for her. Seeing this scene, Zhu Xinyu stomped her feet in anger, her beautiful eyes turned slightly red, and she couldn't help feeling a little aggrieved. She clearly saw this witch smiling, but no one believed her. The baby feels aggrieved, but he doesn't say it. At this time, Ye Feng stood up and said, I did see Miss Ling smile just now. She wasn't making fun of me. She probably thought my description was quite funny and couldn't help laughing. But Xinyu didn't deliberately make up stories, so please don't let her suffer any injustice. Seeing Ye Feng standing up for her, Zhu Xinyu could no longer hold back and threw herself into Ye Feng's arms, wanting to vent all the grievances in her heart. Brother Ye Feng, I knew you would believe me. Thinking of what Zhu Guanyu had done to her, and comparing it to brother Ye Feng who stood up to protect her when she was extremely wronged, Zhu Xinyu felt even more disappointed in Zhu Guanyu. Ye Feng patted Zhu Xinyu's back gently, signaling her to relax, but at the same time he felt a little helpless. Zhu Xinyu is the ultimate weapon she uses to deal with Zhu Guanyu, so her emotions cannot go wrong. I must make her completely devoted to me so that I can give Zhu Guanyu a fatal blow at the critical moment. Seeing Zhu Xinyu's delicate and aggrieved look, Ling Maiyao raised the corners of her mouth slightly, revealing a sly smile, and said with a sweet smile, "I did laugh just now. Brother Ye Feng's story is so wonderful, how can I not be happy?" However, although she looked nonchalant on the surface, she was a little jealous deep down. After all, although Zhu Xinyu didn't have her own kind of charm, her delicate and pitiful appearance made people want to protect her. However, as a smart and confident woman, Ling Maiyao did not show this emotion, but chose to respond in a light-hearted and humorous way. Ye Feng now just wants to quickly get to the depths of Leiji Palace to harvest Zhu Guanyu's leek. Now that the misunderstanding has been resolved, let's move on and not delay our business. He didn't want to waste time here because of these women's jealousy. For Ye Feng, the most important thing is to seize opportunities, improve strength, and move towards the path of eternal life. If he had to stop for a woman, it could only be his master Bao Bao and senior sister Mu. While walking on the road, Ye Feng was alone and immersed in the thoughts of his master, baby and senior sister Mu. Mu Shuali was like white moonlight to Ye Feng. At first sight, Ye Feng was attracted by her extremely cold beauty. During their subsequent interactions, Ye Feng discovered that sister Mu had a passionate heart beneath her cold appearance. And that heart will only become hot because of Ye Feng. There is no need to say more about Master Yun Qingwan. From the beginning to the end, she has always been an indelible mark on Ye Feng's heart. What's more, there is a little life in Master's hand who is bound to him by blood. Ye Feng also felt a little emotional. It had been more than 30 years since he entered Yunxia Peak at the age of 18. For more than 30 years, my master has taken meticulous care of me every day, but I always caused trouble for her. As a grown man, I can't always let my master stand in front of me when I encounter something. Thinking of this, Ye Feng became more determined to improve his strength. I must become an unrivaled warrior and protect master and senior sister Mu from all the storms ahead.